Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Monday, December 22nd, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can, Cash App, $ORIONNWSF, or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got Monday Night Football with the San Francisco 49ers versus the Indianapolis Colts. Kickoff is going to be here in roughly 5 minutes. So let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get settled in for Monday Night Football. Happy Monday, everyone. And on the thumb, on the left, one of the best running backs in the game, CMC, Christian McCaffrey, and the number one running back for a good chunk of the season. Don't get it twisted. He can ball, Jonathan Taylor. I think the thumb turned out pretty well, and I'm definitely excited to see where this is going to go here tonight. Niners are favored by 4.5 on the Vegas line, but with that being said, if Phillip Rivers can tap into a little bit of the past and doesn't turn the ball over, multiple times, and you can get Jonathan Taylor, the Rock, early and often, as well as big plays by Pittman on offense and Latu on defense, they may end up being able to keep this game a little bit closer than expected. But we know Brock Purdy is back, CMC is hungry and ready to go, and you can never forget about one of the most likable tight ends in the game in George Kittle. Can't wait to be able to see this matchup. We haven't got a chance to see the Colts too many times in prime time, and it's been a little bit for the Niners as well. Can't wait to be able to get into the matchup, and I hope everyone is excited as well. We're going to be shooting for 100 likes, 100 on the Dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Let's go. Daniel in the building. What's good? And again, Niners, you would assume should win the game. And it's crazy, to me, if you look at all of the different teams in the NFL, I think Kyle Shanahan definitely, deserves a nod at one of the opportunities, to get coach of the year, because if you really look at what he's been able to do with as little as he has, it's very impressive. We know that he's one of the best play callers in the game, just like Sean McVay and Ben Johnson on the Bears, but they also have a secret weapon on defense, Robert Saleh. So we know that, he was a defensive coordinator. He was the head coach of the Jets, ended up coming back to the Niners. And again, with a no-name defense, Dre Greenlaw in Denver, right? Talanoa Hufanga in Denver, right? Talanoa Hufanga, see you later, right? So you got two of those guys with Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw. They're in Denver. Those were key components of the defense. But, Saleh said, well, you know what? We still got Nick Bosa, but that didn't last very long. We still got Fred Warner. He got injured as well. So if you actually look player for player on the Niner defense, it's a lot of no names, or kind of lower end names, and they still have been able to get to 10 wins. And, we know that the Rams and Seahawks have been the talk of the town, for the NFC and the NFL, specifically the NFC West. But, the Niners, I feel, are going to be a dangerous team like the Chicago Bears. You don't really know what version of those two teams that you're going to get when they make the playoffs, but again, once they get there, they look like they're more on point than per se, let's say the Packers, the Lions, or the Buccaneers, or the Panthers. So we obviously know Seahawks, Rams, Eagles are the three best, but it wouldn't shock me one bit if the Niners and Bears were to upset someone. It could definitely happen. And then the same thing goes on the AFC side, right? You got the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion. I feel like that's the strongest team in the AFC. Then you got the Broncos and the Patriots, who've kind of hit a skid within the last few weeks, but are still very, very good. And now the Jaguars, the Texans and the Chargers are kind of putting their name, in that AFC mix. And then obviously you have the Steelers or the Ravens, and it assumes that, we're going to probably have Pittsburgh and Tampa, or Pittsburgh and Carolina for that last spot. I wouldn't expect either one of those teams to win a playoff game, but again, you never know. And again, I'm definitely excited to be able to see the matchups here today. And even though San Fran is favored by 4.5, if Phillip Rivers can play decent football and not throw 2-3 picks, and Jonathan Taylor can get in the end zone once or twice, either through the ground or through the air, and getting some good coverage with Pittman, and Latu can be a force on defense, there is a chance that the Colts could potentially upset the Niners at home, but they definitely would need something extra to do it. A pick six, a fumble for a touchdown, a blocked punt, a blocked field goal. They're going to need something a little bit extra. And again, the Niners, they don't really have a lot of big names on defense, but Saleh has coached them up very, very well. And obviously with Purdy and CMC and George Kittle, and then even though you're not going to have access to Ricky Pearsall, as well as a few others, his knee is still bothering him, which is unfortunate because I was really hoping that we would get a chance to see him when this game was going to be played. And then on the flip side, we really wanted to be able to see Sauce Gardner after he ended up getting traded to the Colts. But obviously with his injury to the calf, we're not going to be able to see him either. So again, it's a pretty even matchup, on paper, slight advantage for the Niners, even though they're on the road. But I do think it will be a competitive matchup like yesterday's game. And who knows, could potentially come down to whoever has the ball last. And that's what we're really hoping for. Marine Bean in the building, what's good? Dark Passenger in the building, what's good? Let's get it, baby. And it just kind of makes me sick, knowing the fact how good the Colts were, with Daniel Jones before he got hurt. 19 touchdowns, 8 picks. And I do think the Colts would have been, one of those teams that would have been a threat, kind of like the Jaguars and the Chargers, or they may not be the top dog like the Bills, Broncos, and Patriots, but based on how they were playing with Daniel Jones, it was kind of a rebirth in his career. And again, it's just a shame. Injuries can really derail a season. All right, we're just getting ready here for kickoff. Let's get it, baby. All right, what are we going to get? Are we going to get a solid Phillip Rivers? Are we going to get JT, Jonathan Taylor, to go beast mode? Michael Pittman Jr., what are you going to do? And Latu on defense? We will see. And here we go. Pinheiro, 63-yard kickoff. And Owen there with a decent return. 26 yards, first down and 10 at the Indianapolis 28. Jerry in the building, what's good? Can't believe Phillip Rivers has got 10 kids. Wild. He's got a whole starting 5 and a bench. Incredible. And I got the black helmets going on here with the alternate helmet. Shotgun set, Rivers going deep right to Michael Pittman Jr. right out of the gates. One-on-one coverage and just underthrown. And it makes you think if that was Phillip Rivers from 5 years ago even, maybe that ends up being connected. Incomplete. And you know that they are going to be able to take chances. And we will see what kind of version of Phillip Rivers and Michael Pittman. And again, if they're going to win this game, Pittman's going to have to get in the end zone, you would think, at least once. Jonathan Taylor once or twice. And again, maybe even getting some help on the defensive side as well. Second down and 10 at the Indianapolis 28. Yeah, one of his kids has a kid, so he has a grandpa now. But with 10 kids and being a grandpa, pretty wild at his age. Shotgun set. And they're going to blow that play dead. Whistle blows. And we have a flag on the field. False start by Tanner Bartolomini. That'll be second down and 15 at the Indianapolis 23. Well, they have a better chance of winning games with Phillip Rivers than they do with AR, Anthony Richardson, or even their third string quarterback. So Riley Leonard. So 7-yard run there by Jonathan Taylor up the middle, and Bryce Huff, kind of one of the no-name guys in there with the tackle for the Niners. And as we go over a lot of the names on the Niner defense, most of them will be unrecognizable. Great job by Saleh, coaching that side of the ball up to perfection. 3rd down and 8 at the Indianapolis 30. 0-0 here early between the 10-4 Niners, 6-2 on the road, and the 8-6 Colts, 6-1 at home for Indianapolis. And then Bartolini, who ended up having the false start, ended up getting injured on the play. Injury to insult. You end up getting the false start, and then the next play you get injured. But hopefully he will be okay. Bartolini with the fettuccine. Hopefully he is okay. Hate seeing guys go down, especially like offensive linemen, defensive linemen. These are the guys that are battling in the trenches that never really get any love or credit. And again, anyone that knows football, games are won, in the trenches. O-line, D-line, defense, coaching, play calling. It's not always about the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver, and the tight ends. Now, you obviously have to have some decent players, on those positions, but definitely much more important to have a good O-line and D-line, because if you have a great O-line and D-line and average quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight ends, they'll end up turning into the good category because of the O-line giving them plenty of time to go through the progressions or opening up the holes for the running backs. Facts. 3rd down and 8 at the Indianapolis 30 as they cue to a commercial break. And hopefully everyone will be okay, including Bortolini. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Really like the way this thumbnail turned out with CMC and Jonathan Taylor. And there's a very good possibility that these guys both get in the end zone at least once, and maybe even 2 or 3 times, depending on the flow of the game. $62 subs do 23,400. We're making some ground. All right. Bortolini hitting that injury tent. Hopefully he'll be okay. Danny Pinter coming in to replace, and this will be something that we have to keep an eye on. 3rd down and 8. You would assume Tyler Warren will be able to get some opportunities, the rookie from Penn State as well. Shotgun set, Rivers, short middle. Jonathan Taylor there with the little check down. In stride. Oh my, what a juke. There we go. 1st down, Colts. Move the chains. 1st down, Indy. 19-yard pass from Phillip Rivers to Jonathan Taylor. And it's crazy to think a guy that is 44, 45 years old, out of the game for, 4 or 5 years can be better, than quarterbacks that are in the league like Anthony Richardson and Riley Leonard. But it's true. There's a reason why they got him. He's super intelligent. The only thing, obviously that is going to be a little lacking is him being in football shape. But it's not like they expect him to run a whole lot. He'll be a pocket quarterback just like he was when he was in his playing days. And again, as you can see, he still has an arm. He can throw more than 8 yards, Jerry. And wide open there, Josh Downs, proving again that he can throw it more than 8 yards. 1st down, Colts. Move the chains. I like that connection there from Rivers to Downs. 1st down and 10 at the San Francisco 34. And again, with all the kids that he's been coaching up, and he's got a very strong family presence, he gets emotional, just having an opportunity to get out there. He doesn't want to embarrass himself. And again, I really like the way that he's playing with a lot of pride and poise. And not a lot of guys could do what he did coming out of retirement and actually looking pretty good against Seattle. And so far here against the Niners, not bad. I mean, again, imagine if he was going against bottom feeder teams like the Jets and the Raiders. He could probably put up some monster numbers if he would have started against shit teams like that. So to go against Seattle's tough defense and the Niners, pretty impressed. Still got a ways to go before this one is over, but, not many guys could do what he did. Salute. 3-yard run there by Jonathan Taylor up the middle. 2nd down and 7 at the San Francisco 31. Shotgun set. Rivers on 2nd down and 7, going deep left to Tyler Warren, the rookie from Penn State, and just out of reach, and good coverage there by the Niners. Broken up there at the end of the play by Stout. 3rd down and 7 at the San Francisco 31. Now, if that was Warren one-on-one, he probably comes down with that. But just the simple fact that you had that safety over the top, that was really the difference. Shotgun set on 3rd down and 7. Short left to Pittman. Oh my, he is rolling. 14-yard pass, 1st down, Colts. But there is a flag on the play that potentially could be on the Colts goal line. And it looks like it is. Oh, illegal formation on Jalen Travis. Come on, Jalen. You got to be able to help out your quarterback there. And now 3rd down and 7 to a 1st down turns into 3rd down and 12. And let's see if Grandpa Rivers can get it done. But again, not many guys could do what he is doing currently. And I know Steichen is going to try to, choose plays that he's familiar with, by running this offense like he did the last time that he played. And he's not missing a beat early on. Rivers, shotgun set. Josh Downs is open. 1st down, Colts. Wow. Right in between that soft zone of the Niners, out with the late tackle. Even with self-inflicted wounds with penalties, doesn't faze Grandpa Rivers. 1st down, Colts. Move the chains. Let's go. Let's go. And the Niners have a good defense, even though they don't have Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga are on the Broncos. Now, if they had Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, it would be a lot tougher. But still, Niner defense has still played pretty good under Saleh with a lot of no-name guys. Little screen pass to Tyler Warren, the rookie from Penn State, who should be in the running for Rookie of the Year with Travion Henderson and a few others. 2nd down and 7 at the San Francisco 20. And I'm really liking the uniforms the Colts got. I don't think everyone, will enjoy the black helmets as much as me, but it's a very clean look, with the black helmets and the blue stripe and going all blue top and bottom instead of going with like white pants on the bottom. I think it's a very clean look, and they're definitely playing. You look good, you feel good, you play good, as Dion said, and the Colts are looking good early. 2nd down and 7, another flag comes out. Rivers going to the end zone. Touchdown, Colts. Alec Pierce. Who is the penalty on? We need to find out this. What a beautiful throw by Phillip Rivers. Penalty on the defense, decline, touchdown, Indianapolis, Alec Pierce. And the great thing about Phillip Rivers, he doesn't discriminate. He's going to get Tyler Warren the ball. He's going to get Pittman the ball, Alec Pierce the ball, Downs the ball. You literally saw him spread the ball to every offensive weapon they had, including Jonathan Taylor at running back. I don't think you could have dialed up a better first drive at home for Indianapolis for Grandpa Rivers. They do have a chance to win this game. Extra point is up and good. I'm impressed. That was fucking awesome. Because again, as anyone knows, as you get older, once you end up hitting 40, things start aching a little bit more. You hurt a little bit more, when you move a certain way, or you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or you work out a little bit too hard. It's not like you have the same body when you're 30 or in your 20s. And, to see what Tom Brady was able to do after 40, as well as some of the other GOATs that, decided to play at that 40 range, I've always been impressed with that. But for a guy that, left the league, retired, and then, obviously came back, and, we know he's not in necessarily football shape, but, the mind, it's still there, and the arm, he can still sling it against NFL competition. Very impressed. 7-0 Indy. Awesome possession, man. That's probably one of the best possessions I think I've seen for like an underdog story, maybe in the last 5-10 years. We've seen a lot of underdog stories and crazy, stories of guys that you want to root for. And regardless if you were a Rivers guy, or not, pretty cool to be able to see. And now they have a nice 7-0 lead. Next up will be Brock Purdy, Run CMC, and George Kittle. And we'll see what the Niners do on their opening drive. Awesome, man. Let's go. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. I see you, Rivers. And again, when they were talking about Rivers coming out, I had a feeling that he would actually play pretty good. We know Richardson has got a terrible completion percentage, and he gets hurt a lot. It doesn't really seem like a starting quarterback in the NFL. And then obviously with Riley Leonard, being a young guy, doesn't really have, the chance to get out there. And then he ended up getting a little banged up as well. So, right now, Rivers, even if those other two guys were healthy, that would be the guy you would want to go to. And that's kind of a crazy thing that you would want to go with him over a rookie, from Notre Dame, or a guy that's been in the league, for a couple years, but never really has hit his stride with AR and Riley Leonard. But Rivers is proven, and again, he played well against Seattle, and he's playing great here early on against the Niners. 7-0 Indy. And, the best part about Indy might be their defense. Latu is one of my favorite players in the entire league. He is a menace on that side of the ball. And again, as anyone knows, I'm a defensive-oriented type of fan. So anytime I can see beast players, like a Fred Warner or a Nick Bosa, unfortunately, they're hurt. Those are the kind of guys I look forward to. And I love Latu. He is my favorite player on the Indianapolis Colts. 9 plays, 72 yards, 4:29 off the clock. Grandpa Rivers, salute. And Blake Grupe kicks off 58 yards. And a nice 24-yard return by Brian Robinson Jr. And it'll be first down and 10 at the San Francisco 31. And not only was it impressive, that he scored a touchdown on that drive, even with some false starts and self-inflicted wounds. But again, I don't know if I've seen a drive in the NFL, regardless if it's a guy that's been retired for 4 or 5 years or not, but literally get everyone on the offense a look and to be able to make a play. And most of them were over 10 yards for each of the guys that he got involved with, Taylor and Pittman, Downs, and then obviously Alec Pierce there at the end, and even sprinkled in a little Tyler Warren. I love that. It's like playing that point guard position at quarterback to the fullest. Shotgun set, McCaffrey up the riddle. Run CMC, 4-yard game, second down and 6 at the San Francisco 35. And I assume that we're going to see a whole lot of Christian McCaffrey bringing that electricity on that side of the ball for Brock Purdy. And I assume that we'll see George Kittle be able to show what he can do as well. Purdy, shotgun set, going deep. He's got a man. There he is on cue. Hey, I talk about Purdy and Kittle, and hey, sports gods are like, you know what? Let's do it right now. Let them know that we're paying attention. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. 26-yard pass from Purdy to Kittle, making me look good. First down, Niners. Beautiful. Move the chains. A lot of fun players to watch, even if you're not a fan of either one of these teams. Purdy, short middle to run CMC, Christian McCaffrey. Nice 6-yard gain there. Second down and 4 at the Indianapolis 33. You're not going to see Purdy really, go to all his options. You would assume, Kittle will find the football quite often, but run CMC will be the main target, running and throwing. Trent Williams still beasting out on that left tackle position for the Niner O-line. McCaffrey, use check. Not many guys have fullbacks in the league anymore. Juwan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne can still end up balling at this stage of their careers as well. Shotgun set on 2nd down and 4. McCaffrey off the right tackle. Nice 9-yard gain. Cam Bynum with the tackle, the safety. 1st down and 10. Bang, bang, Niner gang at the Indianapolis 24. And I hope this goes back and forth, where we can get a game into the mid-20s. I'm not sure if you'll get to the 30s unless the defenses have some issues there. But, hopefully it ends up being whoever has the ball last wins. And, they'll have an opportunity to win the game, whether they're tied or down. Shotgun set on 1st down and 10. Hand off to McCaffrey off that right side. And Jermaine Pratt, the linebacker, chases him out of bounds. 2nd down and 8 at the Indianapolis 22. We got about 8 minutes to go here in the first quarter. 7-0 Colts. And Grandpa Rivers killing it early. And I can't wait to see what he does on his second drive. Shotgun set, empty back, 5 wide receiver set, trips left, Purdy going deep. He's got a man, 1-on-1, touchdown, Niners. Wow, that was beautiful. Demarcus Robinson finding himself into the end zone, 22-yard pass from Brock Purdy. And just like that, after Phillip Rivers scores a touchdown through the air, Brock Purdy says, whatever you can do, Grandpa, I can do better. Wow, beautiful play. Brock Purdy to Demarcus Robinson. I see you. And again, no one expects Demarcus Robinson to be making a play like that, but it shows you, with the 49ers and the Rams, you literally can plug and play anybody at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or tight end because the coaching is so good, for the Niners and the Rams. And they've proven it, year in and year out, regardless if it's Pro Bowl, All-Pro, Hall of Fame type of player or not, or someone off the street. They really maximize their talent, based on the coaching and the play calling. And another great throw by Purdy to Demarcus Robinson, 22-yard touchdown pass. And again, I knew this was going to be a good game. And Rivers and Purdy are delivering early, and I love it. Let's go. 7-7 with 7:14 left in the first quarter. And I do definitely think this is going to be much more entertaining than last night's game. And again, we obviously know with the Ravens, no one anticipated Lamar going down, with the injury. And even if he was healthy, there's no guarantee that they would have won that game last night as well. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. All right, we're at 13 likes. We need to be able to get a few people to hit that like button. We need 37 to get to 50. Let's go, baby. And if you're just tuning in to the broadcast, Alec Pierce, 20-yard touchdown pass there from Phillip Rivers, making it look easy. Blake Groupie with the extra point and good. 9 plays, 72 yards, 4:29 off the clock. Grandpa Rivers looking amazing. And then Brock Purdy driving the ball down the field, 22-yard pass to Demarcus Robinson. Eddie Pinheiro with the extra point and good. 6 plays, 69 yards, 3:17 off the clock. and one of the more entertaining, first drives for both teams here during the season, here in December. Oh, ball's loose. And it looks like the Niners recovered. Wow. And off the kickoff, you can't fumble. And there's the first mistake of the game. And a nice little spike there by the Niners. Wow. Tongas, I see you. Wow, he blasted him. Amir Abdullah. Golly, brother. That's tough. First down and 10. Brock Purdy. Shotgun set. Short left to George Kittle. First down, Niners. And right off the turnover, they're looking to score immediately. And Pratt with the tackle there. But it feels like we're moments away from a Christian McCaffrey touchdown or one of the other solid players on that Niner offense. First down and 10. Christian McCaffrey running off that left end. Nice 5-yard game. Abukum with the tackle there. Second down and 5 at the Indianapolis 9. And you are going to get a few turnovers in this game. Again, you don't really know if it's going to be on offense or, if a defense is going to end up getting a pick or a fumble. And again, special teams is key. Sometimes you're going to get a blocked punt or a blocked field goal, and other times you're going to end up jarring it loose after, a punt or a kick after a touchdown. We got about 5:51 left and counting here in the first quarter, knotted up at 7. Shotgun set. McCaffrey going to the left side this time. Cross with the tackle, the safety. And now it's going to be first and goal at the Indianapolis 3. It just kind of feels like we're moments away from a McCaffrey touchdown, either through the air and like a screen, or on the ground. But obviously you have plenty of weapons to go to. Juwan Jennings could obviously be a target as well. And they decide to go on first and goal. Brian Robinson Jr. getting a chance, and Gallimore there with the stop. Only a 1-yard gain. Second down and goal at the Indianapolis 2. And obviously the Colts need to do everything in their power to be able to try to hold the Niners to field goals when they get in this type of situation. Easier said than done when you have so many good offensive weapons like the Niners do. And really the secret weapon is Kyle Shanahan with the play calling and his, expertise. I mean, he knows how to break down weaknesses almost better than anybody. And Sean McVay right there with him. And second and goal. And the Niners are going to talk it over here. They don't like the look. And timeout, San Fran. The Cougs. 88-70, the Niner record there for Shanahan. And really, he's great in the first, second, and third quarter. In big games. It's just the fourth quarter. He hasn't really been able to figure it out, especially in the Super Bowl. But you would assume at some point, they may be able to get it done. But the window is definitely closing. Shotgun set. Purdy. wide open, touchdown, Niners. And just like we said, Christian McCaffrey, we knew that he was getting close to scoring. And there it is, Christian McCaffrey getting the catch, touchdown, Niners. 13-7, San Fran. And again, if you watch them play, that's typically where it goes. If McCaffrey doesn't get the first touchdown, usually it's the second. And a great drive there by Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. Extra point is up by Pinheiro and good. 14-7 Niners. And again, both teams have pretty good defenses, but the offensive firepower for both are a little bit better. And this looks like it could end up being a very entertaining, high-scoring game. (14-7) Niners as we go to a commercial break. 4:33 left in the first quarter. And again, if you're just tuning in to the broadcast, Phillip Rivers, Grandpa Rivers looking very solid on the first drive and getting Alec Pierce with a 20-yard touchdown pass, 7-0 Colts. Then Brock Purdy went to Demarcus Robinson, 22-yarder. Whatever you can do, Grandpa. Purdy says, I can do better, 7-7 tie. And then after the fumble there by the Colts, Christian McCaffrey getting in the end zone from a pass from Brock Purdy. And just like that, 14-7 San Fran. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Now we'll see if Phillip Rivers can answer back, and hopefully he'll get a touchdown pass again, or realistically, Jonathan Taylor could end up getting in the end zone like McCaffrey on their second touchdown. They kind of follow the same type of pattern, as the Niners. So again, Rivers, if he ends up throwing another touchdown pass, that would be great. But if he does, it potentially could be something like we saw with McCaffrey on that last drive, where you have a little check down or a screen to Taylor, depending on where we are on the field. But definitely excited to see what Rivers does on the second drive. You would assume Pittman, Pierce, and Warren will be able to get some looks as well. And again, we haven't been able to see Latu make a presence on Purdy just yet, but we're still early in the first quarter. All right, Grandpa Rivers, let's go, baby. And if you're going to guard one player on the Niners, obviously the guy that you would want to keep as close to possible, as far as coverage would be McCaffrey. Like, how do you let a guy slip out like that? But anytime you get McCaffrey versus a linebacker, no matter who the linebacker is, it's obviously a mismatch. And Pinheiro kicks off, 61 yards, and they decide to go with a different returner this time around. I don't blame him. Coleman Owen, and he doesn't fumble and gets a nice 32-yard return. First down and 10 at the Indianapolis 34. All right, here we go. 4:28 here in the first quarter. 14-7, Niners up. Let's see if Phillip Rivers can do it again. Shotgun set on first down and 10. Short right to Josh Downs. And a nice 8-yard grab. Second down and 2 at the Indianapolis 42. Mustafa and Gifford for the Niners with the coverage and the tackle. He's getting a little chippy out there with some of the Niner defenders. Shotgun set, Jonathan Taylor up the middle, and a beautiful 6-yard run. First down, Colts. Move the chains. And again, the confidence that Phillip Rivers has, and you obviously have one of the best running backs in 2025. Last year it was Saquon Barkley. This year it's Jonathan Taylor. And again, a quarterback's best friend, besides a great offensive line, is an amazing running back, and Rivers has that. First down and 10 at the Indy 47. Shotgun set. Rivers going to Josh Downs again. Oh, incomplete. Second down and 10 at the Indianapolis 47. Shotgun set. Rivers, short middle to Drew Ogletree, the tight end. Even Ogletree getting looks. I love it. 11-yard pass. First down, Colts. Move the chains. Impressive. Phillip Rivers, 7 for 10. 92 yards with one tutty already. Beautiful. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 42. Audible at the line there for Rivers. Shotgun set. And short left to Ogletree, incomplete. Second down and 10 at the San Francisco 42. And just out of reach there. Now it looked like if he actually threw it to Alec Pierce a little bit deeper, that could have been a touchdown. Had a little bit of a step on the defender there. Second down and 10 at the San Francisco 42. We got about 2:20 left in the first quarter. 14-7 Niners in a very entertaining matchup here on Monday Night Football. Shotgun set. Rivers. Oh, he's going deep to Pierce. Like I mentioned on the previous play, he's open. And he got it. Nice. First down, Colts. Maybe Rivers saw that previous play. Nice job. First down, Indy. Rivers to Pierce. And a beautiful first down. 17-yard pass there from Rivers. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 25. And it just kind of feels like Rivers and Purdy can do pretty much anything that they want. And on top of that, you got two of the best running backs in the game right now, playing with them, with Run CMC with Purdy and Jonathan Taylor with Rivers. Very exciting. And they both have receivers. They both have tight ends. They mirror each other. Very similar. And Downs with a reverse and gets tripped up from behind. Stout has been everywhere. The corner there for the Niners, Upton Stout. Beautiful shoestring tackle. Second down and 7 at the San Fran 22. And if he wouldn't have clipped him, Josh Downs, that could have ended up being, 10 yards or more. Great defense there. Rivers 8 for 12, 109 yards and a TD already. Steichen is cooking. You have to understand the limits of your quarterback and what he can do and what he can't do. But right now, it doesn't look like there's nothing he can't do besides maybe run away from anybody. But they don't expect Rivers to really do that. Shotgun set, Rivers, short left, Downs is open, throw it, and he's there. Nice. First down, Colts. And Huff throws him out of bounds, but a beautiful catch there from Josh Downs. First and goal at the San Francisco 10. Oh my. Will Josh Downs get another look in the end zone just like this? Let's go, Phillip. Nothing would be better if we could have a 14-14 tie after the first quarter. Let's go. At this pace, if they can score, both teams would be pacing for 50-plus points, where we know that's not going to happen, but very exciting. Hand off to Jonathan Taylor, breaks a tackle and another, takes it to Niners to bring him down, and then And we got a flag on the play. We'll see if we have an illegal shift or a hold here on the O-line. Holding on the offense. And Dalton Tucker, the guilty culprit, with the hold. And that goes in the wrong direction now for the Indianapolis Colts. They had a couple self-inflicted wounds, on the first drive, but it didn't matter for Rivers. He was still able to sling it and fling it. And almost every pass that he's completing is like 10 yards or more. So it's not like he's throwing checkdowns and screens and that's all he can do. He doesn't have a noodle arm. 10-yard penalty there by Tucker, and now it's 1st and goal at the San Fran 18. Just gives Rivers a little bit more room to be able to throw. And the clock is winding down, and we aren't going to get a 14-14 tie, at least in the first quarter, but we may get it in the beginning of the second. End of the first quarter, Niners 14, Colts 7, and in a very entertaining Monday Night Football. Fantastic game so far. All right, we're at 21 likes, 29 more to 50. Let's get it, baby. Megan in the building. How are you? Fantastic game here so far on Monday night. Niners 14, Colts 7. Colts looking like they're about to score here momentarily. And it could come down to whoever has the ball last here in the matchup. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Rivers is balling out. Jonathan Taylor putting in some work. You're going to get Pittman more than likely in the end zone before this one is over. You got Alec Pierce. You got Tyler Warren. You got Josh Downs. Lots of weapons. And on the flip side, we obviously know with Purdy, CMC, Kittle, and then early on with Demarcus Robinson. And I imagine Juwan Jennings at some point will be able to, make his presence known. Very entertaining matchup. 14-7, Niners up. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for your love and generosity to the channel. Megan with a $50 dono, getting us to halfway to our goal right out of the gates. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Stacks, Racks with a little Cactus Jack, bang, bang. And Megan representing the 12s. And they are in first place, looking like one of the best teams, if not the best team in football. Thank you so much. And tipped and incomplete. Almost intercepted there by the San Francisco 49ers. Davis got a finger or a hand on it, and that was very, very close. Let me know if there's anything that you want to represent for the Seahawks, or if you have some type of preference, let me know and I got you. Appreciate you very, very much. We're at 50 on the dono train, 50 to go. Shotgun set, 2-yard run from Jonathan Taylor up the middle, and that's going to be 3rd and goal at the San Francisco 16. And you're going to need a little bit more, holes to open up for Taylor to be able to go 18 yards to the end zone. And now it's 3rd and goal at the San Francisco 16, and we'll see if they end up playing it conservatively, with a draw or a screen or a handoff up the middle to Taylor, or if they were going to sling it to try to get Rivers a touchdown on 3rd and goal. I mean, they are on the 16-yard line, though. I got you. Third and goal. Shotgun set for Rivers. He's going deep. He's got a man. Touchdown, Alec Pierce. Wow. And Phillip Rivers looking like he's 20 years old out there. Wow. And again, for a guy that hasn't played football for 4 or 5 years, Alec Pierce getting the tutty. And not only does he have 1 tutty, he's got 2 already. But there is a flag on the play. Pass interference defense, that's going to be decline. Oh, my. And we were going to get that. It felt like at the end of the first quarter, but, you got to wait a couple more seconds, 45 more seconds into the second quarter. And just like that, Phillip Rivers bringing the electricity. Extra point is up and good by Groupie. Wow. And just like that, 14 all. This has got to be one of the more exciting Monday night games that we've had in quite some time. Unbelievable. Let's see if we can queue up a few photos here for Megan while we're waiting during the commercial break. I'll even sprinkle in a little JSN here before the commercial ends. Appreciate you very, very much. $14 all between the Niners and the Colts in a very entertaining back and forth matchup. Groupie kick, 62 yards. And a nice 27-yard return by Sky Moore, the former Chief. And that's going to be first down and 10 at the San Francisco 31. And we got an injury there on the field for the Colts. $14 all. Hey, stylish. You know, you got a match, right? I really like both sets, top and bottom. Very cool. And obviously we know, with different like Lego sets, they've definitely been coming out with a lot of new stuff within the last couple years and whatnot. And man, very, very cool. All right, we got 14:07 left in the second quarter. Very impressive. You expect, Brock Purdy to wheel and deal, but you don't really expect Phillip Rivers to look like he's in his 20s, at this point, being out of the game for 4 or 5 years, and, just getting, thrown into the mix. But very, very impressed. And again, it's a type of game where it could come down to whoever has the ball last wins the game. Lots of great offensive skill position players on both teams. And really, it's going to come down to, whatever defense can end up making the most, big plays with picks and fumbles. That could end up being the difference. Did you ever get the Jaws Lego set? Did you ever get that commemorative Lego set or no? The Stranger Things Lego set was pretty incredible. I definitely have seen, quite a, I'm always looking to see whatever, collectible, a lot of times it's a little out of the price range for me, especially if it ends up being like 200 to 400. But again, some of them are pretty fucking spectacular. 14:07 left in the second quarter, 14-14 all. And we will see here with the Niners what happens next. And they decide to go on 1st down and 10 to Christian McCaffrey up the middle for a nice 12-yard gain. That'll be 6 carries for 38 yards now for Christian McCaffrey. Nick Cross, the safety, with the tackle. And that'll be 1st down and 10 at the San Francisco 43. 1st down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Move the chains. Shotgun set. Purdy going short middle to Juwan Jennings, one of the receivers that hasn't really got too many looks just yet, and complete. 2nd down and 10 at the San Francisco 43. Purdy, short right to Kendrick Bourne, another individual that hasn't really got too many looks just yet. Nice 12-yard pass. 1st down, Niners. Move the chains. Blackman there with the quick tackle. 1st down and 10 at the Indianapolis 45. Are you planning on building the DeLoreans, or are you just going to keep them in the package? And we got a dead ball whistle here on 1st down and 10. And challenge flag is thrown out. Good challenge there. We'll see what the results are. and a few photos there for Kendrick Bourne and Juwan Jennings. But while we're waiting for the action to come back, let's throw up a few more photos for Megan. A little Seahawk representation with a little Jim Zorn. And then we can see what else we can find as we continue on with the game. $14-14 all. We're waiting for the commercial break to come back from the challenge. Fantastic game. Very back and forth. No doubt about that. And the Colts win the challenge. It ends up being incomplete. Ball did come loose there. Limited edition, staying in the boxes is a good choice. Absolutely. 3rd down and 10 at the San Francisco 43. Found another photo for you. Just got to be able to try to find ones that are going to be HD or 4K. I know that was a great experience for you. 3rd down conversions, Niners 0 for 0 at this point, but they got 14 points, and the Colts are, 3 for 3 on 3rd down based on a few penalties. But one of the more entertaining matchups that we've seen on Monday Night Football this season. 10-4 Niners, 6-2 on the road, 8-6 Colts, 6-1 at home. Obviously, they lost Daniel Jones, and if they didn't, they probably would have 10 wins like the Niners. But they're doing pretty good here with Phillip Rivers, much better than if it was Riley Leonard or Anthony Richardson. They would probably lose every game the rest of the way. But at least with Phillip Rivers, you have a chance. You don't really know what the defense is going to do. But again, Phillip has been pretty good against Seattle and pretty good against the Niners, at this, early stages of his comeback here in 2025. Third down and 10. Trips right. Purdy decides to scramble himself up the middle, and Cam Bynum with the nice tackle. And that's going to be 4th down and 1 at the Indianapolis 48. And I'm curious to see what they decide to do here. I highly doubt they're going to punt on 4th and 1. I mean, you can just run a tush push or a QB sneak with Purdy, or hand it off to McCaffrey and get the 1st down. I mean, I know you're at the 46-yard line, but highly doubt that they'll punt. I mean, even if it was 4th and 2, I think they would go for it. Maybe if it was 4th and 3, then they would punt. But 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and inches, with that type of roster and O-line, yeah, you're going to sometimes go for it, even if you're on your 50, even though it's close to the 50-yard line. Purdy up the middle. 1st down. Niners move the chains. DeForest Buckner with the tackle. Great to see him back for the Colts. Had an injury, and he just got reinstated, obviously earlier this morning, late last night. 1st down and 10 at the Indianapolis 46. Always loved DeForest Buckner on the Ducks, and glad to see him back. Christian McCaffrey on 1st down. Off that left side. Go, go. Wow. 18-yard run by Christian McCaffrey. 1st down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Move the chains. 1st down and 10 now at the Indy 28. Shotgun set. McCaffrey up the middle for a yard, and that's going to be 2nd down and 9 at the Indianapolis 27. Now, once we go to commercial break, I'll be able to open it up. I got like 10 different screens up, so once we get to that, I'll be able to take a look to see what was sent. $11:36 left in the second quarter. 14-14 all between the Niners and the Colts. It's going to arrive on the 1st. Nice. It's only a few days away. Heck yeah. And the one that's on pre-order, are you planning on opening that one or keeping that one in the box as well? Shotgun set, Purdy going short middle to McCaffrey, caught, and that's a nice 10-yard pass. First down, Niners. And at this point, just so much offense by both teams, and it just doesn't feel like either defense can stop the offenses on both sides. I mean, it's like we're going 7-7, 14-7, 14-14, 21-14, 21-21, 28-21, 28-28. It's just kind of back and forth. And obviously no field goals, up to this point. And who knows? We might not even get a field goal attempt if they keep scoring like this. First down and 10 at the Indy 17. They decide to bring in Brian Robinson Jr. there at running back, RB2 for the Niners, and a nice 6-yard run there off the right guard. Latu, one of my favorite players on the Colts there, the defensive end with the tackle. Second down and 4 at the Indianapolis 11. It's always a decision that you have to make, based on how much it's worth now and how much it could be worth down the road if you keep it in the package. So, I'm with you there. I would say probably in my collection, 95% is in the box. So I have a few things out of the box, but not many. And Robinson, 6-yard run. And Purdy going quick, short right. Kittle is there. Touchdown, Niners! And in the back of the end zone in double coverage, Brock Purdy does it again. And George Kittle getting action early and often with Christian McCaffrey. Kittle, I see you. Touchdown, bang, bang, Niner gang. Extra point is up by Pinheiro and good. 21-14 Niners. Wow, very back and forth with the electricity. Nobody can stop Purdy. Nobody can stop Grandpa Rivers. And, I hope it just continues like this. I mean, I'm a defensive-oriented fan, but when it ends up being like this, I don't mind it. If we end up going 21-14, 21-21, 28-21, 28-28, and then we eventually get, the score into like the 30s or 40s or 50s, I'm all for it. I mean, obviously defenses are going to get chewed out at halftime and obviously after the game is over, but so much offensive firepower for both teams. Amazing. 21-14 Niners. And I don't think we've really seen a Monday Night Football game kind of play out like this, where it's touchdown for touchdown all the way to halftime and maybe even after that. Awesome. 9:36 left. 21-14 Niners. But again, based on how good Phillip Rivers has looked, there is no indication that he's not going to be able to help them either get Jonathan Taylor in the end zone on the ground or throwing a touchdown pass, to one of his weapons like Pittman, Pierce, or possibly Tyler Warren. Amazing stuff. And we can't forget about Josh Downs as well. Oh, this is a cool Lego set. Speed Champion Edition, huh? Okay. What's the scale on this? How big is it? Is it a small set or is it a bigger set? Can't really tell with just the box, but I assume it's like a medium size, whatnot. Very cool. Ooh. Getting it autoed would be killer. For sure. 21-14 Niners, 9:36 left in the second quarter. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. We're at 50 because of Megan's generosity, 50 to go. And again, we're looking to get 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it. Bye-bye. I'm going to the biggest arcade in the United States tomorrow. So I'll be there for probably 4 or 5 hours, 650 plus games. not all pinball, some old school and some newer. Very excited about that. And again, Wednesday, obviously on Christmas Eve, we won't have a stream. And then on Christmas Day in the evening, I'll be back for the late game for the Broncos and Chiefs. Even though we know the Broncos are going to destroy the Chiefs because Mahomes and Minshew will be out, it'll at least give us a chance to hang out for a couple hours and see how things are going. And again, I'm looking forward to that. Pinero kick 66 yards, and Tyler Goodson with a nice 34-yard return, and it's going to be first down and 10 at the Indianapolis 33. And let's see if Rivers can end up getting him in the end zone one more time. And it looks like we have holding on Indy, and another penalty comes out, and obviously Indianapolis is getting picked on a little bit here. Niners have no penalties at this point, and the Colts have 4 for 25 yards. So I guess it could be worse, but you got to be able to minimize those self-inflicted wounds. Otherwise, the Niners are going to pull away, and you won't be able to come back. But 10 for 15, 137 yards for Phillip Rivers. 2 touchdowns, no picks. Beautiful, right? 7 for 9, 89 yards. 3 touchdowns, no picks for Purdy. I mean, it's just insane right now. Shotgun set, Rivers, short right to Jonathan Taylor. And a nice 6-yard gain there from Rivers to Taylor. And that's going to be second down and 4 at the Indianapolis 26. All right, second down and 4 for Phillip Rivers here on the Indy 26. Most of Rivers' passes have been over 10 yards. And again, we haven't really seen a whole lot of sacks or picks or fumbles besides the one fumble that we saw on special teams. But we're still early in the matchup. Shotgun set. Rivers. Uh-oh, he can't run away. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And C.J. West, the D tackle for the Niners. People are like, who? And again, the no-name defense for the Niners is very coached up by Saleh. And finally, they get to Phillip Rivers. We know at his age, he's not able to really run away. And offensive line has done a good job up to that point. And again, that's now going to be third down and 12 at the Indianapolis 18. Now you just got to be able to sling it and fling it if you're Rivers. Try to force a PI, and he's got plenty of weapons to go to. As far as wide receivers and tight ends, it's very evenly matched, just like the Niners. Shotgun set. Rivers decides to go to Pittman, and just short of the first down marker. Looks like 4th down and 2 at the Indianapolis 28 after that 10-yard pass by Phillip Rivers. I mean, Rivers is slow out there based off his age, but I mean, I've seen guys slower. And now Indianapolis will have to punt for the first time in the game. And again, if they just didn't have those self-inflicted wounds with the penalties, I'm pretty sure that he would have been able to sling it and fling it, and get another touchdown for the Colts. But we may have to wait until the second half, unless they can end up forcing a 3-and-out or getting a turnover on the Niners to potentially tie it up 21-21 before half. But the way that the Niners have looked at this point, unless Latu can end up making a play for the Colts defense, this could end up being 28-14 here momentarily. Rigoberto Sanchez with the punt, and Sky Moore, fair caught. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 18. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy, Brooks Beats, with the best beats on YouTube. 7:09 left, 21-14 Niners. Oh, there's a legend. The Boz enlargement. High stepping before high stepping was cool. Let's go. Next up, we'll have Brock Purdy. On this next drive, we'll see if Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle and company will get in on the action again. 7:09 left before halftime, 21-14 Niners. All right, no problem. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the love and support. Happy holidays. And again, you know, I won't be streaming for the next 2 days until we get to Thursday. But whenever I get a chance to be able to see you again, I'm looking forward to it. Have a great holiday, and I look forward to talking to you in the near future. Appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for the love and support on the channel. Wow. And Purdy gets crushed. Ball comes in the air, and the Niners end up getting the fumble recovery. Luke Farrell and Latu, like I mentioned, my favorite player on the defense. You never know when he's going to come in and make a big play. Wish he was able to, you know, have the awareness to look up and maybe get that football on the way down. But Luke Farrell, the tight end, right place at right time, and great awareness there. Otherwise, that could have been the Colt turnover that they were really needing on that play. Wow. Shotgun set. Purdy going deep to Christian McCaffrey. Incomplete. 3rd down and 7 at the San Francisco 21. We're starting to see the defenses slowly but surely come alive. Obviously, it's an offensive dominated game at this point, but you're starting to see a few guys on the defense on both teams finally trying to get to the quarterbacks. Let's see what Purdy has in tail here on 3rd down and 7 at the San Francisco 21. Third down and 7. Purdy, shotgun set, floater towards the sideline. He's open, and there's George Kittle. First down, Niners, move the chains, but there is a flag on the play. Illegal use of hands, that's going to be declined on Indianapolis. So that'll be first down, Niners, move the chains. Purdy, Kittle, and Kittle is definitely on his game at this point. 6:18 left in the second quarter. If you're the Colts, you got to try to be able to get a turnover, and if you're not able to get a fumble or a pick, you got to hold the Niners to 3. You don't want to get down 28-14 and have this uphill battle, because then if that happens, then you may not be going to Jonathan Taylor as much in the second half, and you're going to have to if you're going to get back in this game. You got to be able to try to keep the play calling as close to 50-50 as possible, especially when you have a running back as an elite as Jonathan Taylor. You know, even though we know Rivers has been, you know, throwing the ball effectively, you don't want to show all your cards in the second half too early. Halfback toss, and McCaffrey, nice 3-yard gain. Quick huddle, shotgun set. Purdy going deep to Sky Moore. Caught. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Purdy to Sky Moore. Cam Bynum with the tackle. First down and 10 at the Indianapolis 41. Wow. Purdy wheeling and dealing. bringing that electricity for San Fran. Plenty of time in the pocket, though. I mean, could have made a sandwich back there. No pressure by any of the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, hell, if you're going to have 5 to 7 seconds to be able to go through all your progressions, someone's going to be open. Less than 5 minutes to go here before halftime. First down and 10. Christian McCaffrey off that right end for a 2-yard gain. Moore and Zaire Franklin with the tackle. Second down and 8 at the Indianapolis 39. You know, Niners will always have that discipline too, regardless if they're up or they're down, you know, especially when you got a guy like Christian McCaffrey. We know he can run the ball and he can catch the ball, maybe better than any running back in the league. And again, he's going to keep that offense disciplined. And so far, they're looking kind of unstoppable against this Colts defense. Besides that one play with Latu. Too bad they weren't able to get that fumble. Shotgun set, Purdy going short middle. George Kittle again. First down, Niners. Move the chains. And we're definitely getting a very good connection between Purdy and Kittle here on Monday Night Football. 17-yard pass. First down, Niners. And I don't see any field goals in the future, you know, for the Niners, at least in the first half. This looks like it's going to get punched in the end zone in a matter of a couple plays. Shotgun set, Purdy going to Kendrick Bourne. First down, Niners. Just like Phillip Rivers looked on the first drive, Purdy's doing the same thing here. Purdy to Kendrick Bourne. First down, San Fran. Bang, bang, Niner gang. First down and 10 at the Indianapolis 11. I wish Ricky Pearsall was playing. You know, I like guys like him and Ladd McConkey. You know, again, when you end up getting these, you know, good route running, good hands, you know, Caucasian receivers coming into the league, it's very interesting to see what they can do. Kind of giving you Julian Edelman vibes and whatnot. McCaffrey up the middle for a nice 5-yard gain. DeForest Buckner for the Colts, the former Duck with the tackle, getting activated late last night, early this morning. So already got 4 tackles, making his presence known. Second down and 5 at the Indianapolis 6, but kind of feels like it's just a matter of time before Purdy throws for a touchdown or McCaffrey gets in on his own. Less than 3 minutes to go here in the second quarter, 21-14 Niners, and one of the most entertaining first halves I've seen all year. I mean, I'm a defensive guy through and through, but every once in a while when it ends up being like this, where it's just offense heavy on both teams, I'm all for it. Shotgun set, Purdy going to McCaffrey, and that looks like a loss of a yard, and that's going to tick, tick, tick down to the 2-minute warning. Third down and 6 at the Indianapolis 7. And we will see what Brock Purdy has in store. Will it be CMC, the most obvious? Could it be Kittle, the second most obvious? Or would you go back to Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne? Or could it end up being to a guy like this, who normally is the third option, Juwan Jennings? I mean, if I was running the plays and if they had a good play set up for Jennings, this would be a good opportunity for him on 3rd and 6 because everyone will be looking here at McCaffrey and Kittle. So at least it will give Juwan and Kendrick an opportunity to get open, but we will find out. What a fun game. If you're just tuning in to the broadcast, Phillip Rivers to Alec Pierce for a 20-yard touchdown pass. Groupie with the extra point and good, 7-0 Colts. And then we ended up seeing Brock Purdy said, hey, whatever you can do, Grandpa, I can do better. Demarcus Robinson with a 22-yard pass from Purdy, 7-7 in the first quarter. Then we end up getting the turnover. Christian McCaffrey, 2-yard pass from Brock Purdy, 14-7 49ers. Then we go into the second quarter, and then we know Phillip Rivers is hungry for more action. 16-yard touchdown pass from Phillip Rivers to Alec Pierce, and then it ends up being 14-14 all. And then we just recently saw a few minutes back, about 7 minutes ago, we saw Purdy go to George Kittle, and we know how good George Kittle can be when he's on. 11-yard touchdown pass, Pinheiro with the extra point and good, 21-14 Niners, and now the Niners are knocking on the door again with Brock Purdy. 3rd down and 6 at the Indianapolis 7, and Indy desperately needs a fumble, a pick, but realistically, they just need a stop to be able to get it to 24-14. Do a 2-minute drill and try to get a field goal or touchdown of their own. And if we can get a 24-17 game at half or a 24-21 game at half, that might be the best case scenario. But we'll see how much time is left after this particular play. Shotgun set. Purdy going to Kittle. The hot hand. 5 receptions, 78 yards, and a tutty out of 6 targets. Incomplete. Good D there. And now it's 4th down and 6 at the Indy 7. Now, the Niners aren't crazy enough with Kyle Shanahan to go for it, are they? I mean, you're up by 7 points. Just take the 3. But with Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and Ben Johnson, you really never know, if they're going to end up doing what's safe or if they are willing to take a gamble. And Kittle almost came down with that last catch. In and out of his hands. Incomplete. But field goal unit should come out. That would be the smart move. Kick is up. And Pinheiro is good. Smart decision by Kyle Shanahan. 24-14, and you got 1:51 left. Plenty of time to be able to get a score. Nice 12 playing, 75-yard drive there by the Niners. And I really am hoping that Phillip can get him into field goal range at minimum, but I'm really hoping for a touchdown. All right, Indy, let's see if we can get it to 24-17 or 24-21, best case scenario. And again, if you go deep, it's not like he doesn't have options. Pittman can come up with a deep catch. Pierce can definitely come up with a deep catch. Tyler Warren can do it. And definitely Josh Downs, who is their number one deep threat most of the time. But again, we don't want Phillip to, be, forcing anything into double coverage. Otherwise, the Niners could get a pick six. And then if it ends up being 35-14 at half, it's over. We know that they'll be able to come back a little bit in the second half. But, they definitely don't want to give up the big turnover here. Hopefully we can get somewhere between 3 and 6 in this last minute 51. But good defense there by the Colts to hold the 3. And again, let's see what we can get here now with Indianapolis in the 2-minute drill. Pinheiro kick, 65 yards, turns into a touchback there. Shotgun set. Rivers going deep to Josh Downs, just like I mentioned, the deep threat, but incomplete. 4 receptions off 6 targets, so at least they know what to do. Again, they're not going to necessarily abandon the run with Jonathan Taylor, but in this situation, you're definitely going to try to draw a PI or go to one of your top receivers that can make deep route plays. And 2nd down and 10 after that one goes incomplete to Josh Downs. Sarah in the building. How are you? Philip looked great in the first couple drives. And again, they just need more, defensive presence other than Latu. And again, they're down now by 10, but they're still in this game. There's no doubt about that. They're just going to need the defense to wake up and hopefully get an interception on Purdy or a fumble to kind of even out the score. Jonathan Taylor up the middle for a 3-yard run, 3rd down and 7 at the Indianapolis 38. Brother and nephew and all the dogs are there. The fam is there. That's awesome. And again, we won't be streaming tomorrow or Wednesday, and I will be streaming on Christmas on the late game for the Broncos and the Chiefs. We already know the Broncos are going to destroy the Chiefs, regardless if it was Mahomes, Minshew, or third stringer. And we know the Broncos are going to win, but at least it'll give us a chance to hang out for a couple hours on that particular holiday. We got about a minute left here on 3rd down and 7. Let's go Rivers. Rivers was super impressive on the first couple drives. Let me tell you. I mean, to me, this was one of the most entertaining first halves I've seen all year on Monday Night Football. Like, there's no question. And I was excited when I saw the matchup. And just imagine if Daniel Jones was playing, But again, Philip Rivers is doing his best impersonation of Daniel Jones. Flag on the play. And just like I mentioned, you got to go deep to draw the PI. And that's exactly what they do. Darrell Luter Jr. is the guilty culprit. Alec Pierce, the intended receiver. And that'll be 1st down and 10 at the San Francisco 41. They are in business, baby. But Rivers would definitely do better than Riley Leonard or AR. So, for people thinking, oh, why would they have a guy even if AR and Riley Leonard were healthy? Guess what? Philip would play better than them. And, even though he may not have the speed and he's a little out of shape, he still has everything up here mentally. And the arm still has strength. Most of the throws today have been over 10 yards. So it's not like he's doing screens and checkdowns. I'm very impressed. He played good against Seattle, but just not enough to beat the best team in football and playing pretty damn well against the Niners here. Rivers, what a throw, man. Josh Downs, 1st down, Colts. Move the chains. Sometimes when you get around that late 30, 40 range, your arm kind of turns into a noodle arm. And again, no noodle detected there for Philip Rivers. He's still got a little oomph on that football, and I love it. And it also helps when you got a lot of athletes you can throw to on the Colts as well. 1st down and 10, Jonathan Taylor rushing towards that right guard for 3 yards. Malik Mustafa, the safety for the Niners, with the tackle. 2nd down and 7 at the San Fran 24. And if you've obviously listened to me mention some of these defensive players on the Niners, it's like, who? Who? Not Nick Bosa, not Fred Warner, not Dre Greenlaw, not Talanoa Hufanga, because those guys are on the Broncos, and then Bosa and Warner got hurt. But, they're trying to do their best with a lot of no-name guys, and, even though they've only given up 14 at this point, Saleh has done a good job with that particular unit. And timeout, Indianapolis. 2nd down and 12 after that flag came out. Yeah, it had to be a little bit better with the clock management, especially when you're trying to get 3 or 6 here. But again, Philip Rivers is so good, he only needs a couple seconds to make a big throw. So, yeah, well, they got a couple deep threats, as you know, right? So we already know Josh Downs is a deep threat. Alec Pierce is a deep threat. Pittman can be a deep threat. And again, if you get the ball to Tyler Warren, it may not be a deep throw, but he might be able to get you yards after the catch that would turn into something big like those other 3. Shotgun set, Rivers going to Jonathan Taylor. And that's a nice 8-yard gain. 3rd down and 4, and another timeout called here by Indy. 3rd down and 4 at the San Francisco 21. So they're going to get a minimum of 3, more than likely, as long as it doesn't get blocked. But I would love for them to be able to get in the end zone to make it 24-21 at half. And even though I am a defensive-oriented fan, every once in a while, I like seeing offenses go crazy like this, back and forth, trading scores off. And, better than having a game be 6-3 in all defense. 24-14, yeah, sign me up. I want to see it 24-21, though. 25 seconds left here before halftime. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. We're at 50 to go, and we're looking for 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Phillip Rivers on the shotgun set on 3rd down and 4, going deep to Tyler Warren, and incomplete. And now the field goal unit will come out, and this should be 24-17 in just a moment. Interesting that they would go to Tyler Warren there, but again, probably thinking that maybe, there wouldn't be really someone on him, and if Rivers didn't get hit there, maybe that would have been more of a cleaner throw. Field goal is up by Groupie, and it is good. Nice job by Groupie, the former Saint. And now it's 24-17 Niners. We had touchdown, 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 and then field goal. And I don't mind a little field goal party here at the end. Very competitive game. And that also puts Indy within just a touchdown, which is awesome. And now we got 17 seconds left before halftime, and we'll see how aggressive Kyle Shanahan is, or if they just end up handing it off to McCaffrey once and they'll go into the locker room. Oh, absolutely. You guys played with a lot of heart against the Seahawks. So again, even if you guys missed the playoffs, and you started to lose some games, you guys are playing the most competitive ball for teams that are just, getting close, but just not enough. But also, too, look at it. You're playing the Seahawks and the Niners. Imagine if you guys played the Saints and the Jets. You would be 2-0, and you would continue to keep it rolling. It's just kind of unfortunate, when Daniel Jones went out, and then now you brought in Phillip Rivers. It's a very, tough part of the schedule. Because, again, if you guys were playing like the Saints or the Jets or the Raiders, holy hell, Rivers could probably throw up 5 touchdown passes against teams like that. So kind of a little bit of bad luck, on who you're playing. But also on the flip side, it shows how good he's playing, against competition like Seattle and the Niners, who are both playoff teams. So, if anything, it's more impressive to go against good teams, as a guy that's been out of the league 4 or 5 years, that's got 10 kids, who's a grandpa, and he's still balling. I love it. Groupie kicks off 61 yards, nice 36-yard return by the former Chief, Sky Moore. And that's going to be 1st down and 10 at the San Francisco 40. So, with 17 seconds left, you might as well go for it and try to go deep, and you might be able to get another cheap field goal here in garbage time. But there's one thing to play with heart, but there's also a thing to play with heart and actually make plays. And Rivers is doing both. He's playing very emotional out there. He doesn't want to embarrass himself. And again, he can't really run away from anyone. He's a little out of shape, but his arm strength is still there, and he looks better than some guys that I've watched at the end of their careers when they were in their late 30s, early 40s. He's got a little bit more zip. And again, it does also show you how many good skill position players that you guys have on offense. Like, Daniel Jones was ripping it up for a reason. You guys have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. You just need a little bit more help with Buckner and Latu on that other side. Shotgun set, Purdy, short left to Kendrick Bourne, 14-yard pass. 1st down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. 1st down and 10 at the Indy 46. Oh, yeah, Sky Moore definitely happy he's not there anymore. Yeah, I don't think I've seen any team quit, like the Chiefs. Being the top team for years and years and years, for like 10 years. And then not only to have the Mahomes injury, but now the Minshew injury. It's like, it's the first time I've seen a really, really good team quit, and I don't really think that they're going to try the rest of the way, which is kind of sad for their fan base and whatnot. But Pinheiro going for the 64-yarder and hits the crossbar. Woo! No good. And the Colts are in it, baby. Wow, that's exactly the best case scenario for you. After Sky Moore gave you that great return, instead of just kneeling it and just going into the locker room, you did give him a chance for a long field goal attempt, but it hit the crossbar. Pinheiro, not today. Wow, what a doink. And normally when it hits the crossbar, it goes in, right? This time it went the opposite direction. You kind of lucked out there. 24-17. And the only thing better is if the Colts got the ball in the second half, and they won't, the Niners will. But if they can play good defense and force a 3 and out or get a turnover, get a quick score, then we're going to be right back in business. That was the weirdest doink sound that we've heard from a field goal all year. Normally it's on the crossbar on the left and the right, not in the middle. But hey, sometimes it helps to be a little lucky. Arguably the most entertaining Monday Night Football game, or one of the most entertaining Monday Night Football games we've had all year. Awesome. I see you, Philip. I see you, Jonathan Taylor. Now, this is the guy that needs to get the ball. He hasn't gotten the ball enough. They need to make an effort to get him the ball. And we know Pierce has been balling out. Warren obviously can get, some plays here and there, but that's kind of like their check down emergency guy. I would love to see Latu. He was the one that ended up forcing that fumble. But unfortunately, the Niner tight end was in the right place at the right time. And then we obviously know Purdy's been balling. CMC can do it all. Kittle has been crazy good. And then you just always have to keep an eye on guys like Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, and Juwan Jennings. And again, we can't forget about Josh Downs, the other deep threat for the Colts as well. So, lots of fun players to end up watching on the offense. Obviously on the defensive side, there's definitely talent lacking on both teams, based off injuries. Nice to see DeForest Buckner back. He's actually played pretty well, with 4 or 5 tackles in the first half. But I need to be able to see more than just Latu trying to get to Purdy. And again, hopefully Latu, my favorite player on the Colts, on that defensive side of the ball, they need him to be able to make that big play. And, he's done it quite often. We'll see if he can do it in the second half. We got less than 10 minutes to go before halftime is up. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. We're at 50. 50 to go. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. I'm really happy the way that this thumb turned out. I had to find a new image. I had an older Jonathan Taylor image, but I wanted to, for me, it's all about being symmetrical and having things look very aesthetically pleasing. And I'm such a stickler, on the thumbs, because it's like I got to get the NFL logo. Then I got to find a great background. Then I got to find the actual team logos. Then I got to find the player images and make sure they look good. And then try to do the live play-by-play and reactions on the bottom and making it look into my signature look. And, sometimes, thumbs take 20, 30 minutes on the fast end. But sometimes they take, an hour to an hour and a half just for one, just because I'm such a stickler to perfection. But it looked really, really good. And again, that Jonathan Taylor image will be something that we'll end up using on the channel for the future as well. Got a few gifts there from the people at work. Nice. 13 for 17, 165 yards, 3 tutties and no picks for Purdy. And Rivers at 45 years old, 14 for 21, 175 yards, 2 TDs, no picks. Hell, there's guys that are fucking 20 to 25 that can't even put up numbers like that. Nice job, Philip. And now you're only down by 7, and you do have a chance. Vinatieri and Clark are at the game. Hell yeah. Good old Adam. Good old Dallas. What a fun game. Again, I knew this was going to be better than yesterday's game. I didn't anticipate Lamar, getting injured and whatnot, but just looking at the skill position players and, We haven't seen the Colts on prime time that often, and I really like the fact that it's in Indy, not in San Fran, because most of the time when the Niners are on prime time, they're at home. This is one of the first times that we've seen San Fran in prime time on the road, which is kind of nice to be able to showcase Indianapolis. And I really like the jerseys, all blue with the black helmet. It's a clean look, very clean. (28-24) final by the Pats. Ravens tried their best to hang around, but it just wasn't enough. All right, let's go to the fastest 3 minutes here with Chris Berman. I miss it when it was Chris Berman and Tom Jackson. I miss the old school guys, old school Sunday night baseball, with Joe Morgan. Old school guys calling games like Madden and Summerall, or Keith Jackson doing Pac-10 games on ABC. Just having the old school presence, the Dave Niehauses, the Vin Scullys, the Harry Careys. I miss a lot of the older grandpa, announcers and whatnot. And, they always are the best storytellers. And not to say guys that are in their, 30s, 40s, and 50s can't do as good of a job. But, when you have that much experience, you got a lot of stories to tell. And especially if you got a very soothing voice like some of those guys did, you don't see too many on their level besides Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt in college football. They are awesome. Nance and Romo are great on the NFL side. But again, besides those two duos, again, there could be a few more that could be better. But I will say I do like Kirk Herbstreit, when he ends up broadcasting a game, regardless if it's NFL or college. I think he's very educated, very well liked. Everyone knows all of his dogs and how much that he is a dog lover and bringing them with him on the road. But again, besides those five guys, you would assume that there would be more that would be a little bit more talented. I mean, not everyone's going to be a Joe Buck, Troy Aikman guy, especially if you're an NFC fan. Are they terrible? No, but they're not necessarily my first choice and whatnot. But I think even Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, I think I would rather listen to them than I would with Aikman and Joe Buck. But I feel like Aikman and Joe Buck are just average. I don't think they're terrible, but I wouldn't say they're great either. So I guess on a 1 to 10, maybe like a 7. But if you're Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt, you're like an 11 out of 10. And if you're Romo and Nance, you're like at a 10 or an 11. Overall. I'm actually a little jealous that Romo and Nance, are CBS and AFC, and then we have to be stuck with Burkhardt and Brady on the NFC side. So, I mean, Brady's gotten a little bit better announcing, from where he was at, but I still feel like with Brady, he screams a little bit too much when he doesn't need to. Like, you got to be able to figure out the flow of a game. And when you're a former player and not someone that talks sports on a regular basis, you don't really understand what you're doing, and obviously he's getting better, as he's going through the games. But whenever I listen to him, it just feels like sometimes he gets a little bit too over emotional and the pitch of his voice gets a little bit too high when it doesn't need to be, and I get it. He's trying to show energy, but you have to be able to have it come across as natural, not forced. And if you end up trying to force it, it just doesn't sound good. So he still has a long ways to go. Great player, but not the greatest announcer. Everyone thinks that they can be an announcer after their playing days, whether it's a pre-show, a post-show, or doing color commentary for someone that can do play-by-play. But as you have seen, it's not as easy as people think to do play-by-play, which is the hardest, and then color. You would think, oh, I can do that, but not very many people are as good as a few of us have seen, like Joel Klatt. And I think he's better than Romo, but I think Romo does a pretty good job with all things considered. Nance, runs the NFL, and then he's just blessed to be able to have someone, as his right-hand man, the Batman to his Robin. All right, San Francisco is going to be receiving the second half kickoff up by 7 points, and we got less than 3 minutes to go. Very, very entertaining Monday Night Football game. And I'm trying to remember if I've seen a more fun, entertaining Monday night game, and I can't really think of one. Obviously, we had the best Thursday night game of the year, and arguably the game of the year with the Seahawks and the Rams. And remember when I was telling you at the beginning of the year, the games were really fun and close in prime time? Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night. And then for whatever reason, October and November sucked. It wasn't good. And then we got into December, and I told you it was going to get better. And as you've seen the matchups, it has. Obviously there's been some heartbreaking losses, like my Bucks losing to the Falcons. That wasn't fun. But again, Seahawks Rams was awesome. This game is turning out to be potentially an awesome finish. Whoever has the ball last, and especially if the Colts can make up for their fumble earlier on special teams, if they can get a fumble, a pick, a fumble for a touchdown, a pick six, or a blocked field goal, or a blocked punt, or something, to kind of even the score, that could be the difference between the Colts winning this game or not winning the game and, losing by 3-7. So, but it's still in range. And let's see if they can get the stop on Brock Purdy on the opening kickoff here in about 1:30. That's awesome. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. My boy. And we gained a couple subs since the last commercial break. Thank you so much. Now we're at 23,340. And there'll be a good chance if the Mariners make a deep run next year, that will be in the, 25, 26, 27, potentially getting closer to that 30,000, range. And again, depending on how far the Mariners go will really determine kind of, the push that we get. Obviously, if the Ducks end up winning the Natty, we'll get a little bit of a boost. Even though there's a lot of haters, out there of Oregon. It's like, we're not Ohio State or Georgia or Alabama, but everyone seems to treat Oregon fans the same way. It's like we don't even have a Natty yet, and everyone's treating us as if we're like the bully. It's like we're still in the same mix as a lot of other teams. It's like if you're not, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Clemson within the last or Michigan in the last 15, 20 years, you have no chance. So, we might be the best team that hasn't won it yet, and we want to get there, but we're definitely going to have to earn it. And, I'm looking forward to Texas Tech on January 1, beat them, play Indiana. We might not be able to beat them, but I think we're going to have a good chance if we make adjustments. And then obviously Ohio State or Georgia in the Natty. And I went back and watched the footage of that game with the Ducks, against James Madison. And we were thinking, why are they giving up so many points in the second half? They had the third, fourth, fifth stringers in pretty much for that whole, second half. So that's the reason why. And obviously they wanted to get good experience, for some of those guys, but there was at least 8 to 10 guys that had the most snaps that they've had all year. And guys that maybe haven't even played since early in the season that were getting reps. And obviously we were getting torched in the second half for a few touchdowns, which was unacceptable, but it definitely makes me feel better knowing that it wasn't the starters or the second stringers out there giving up the points. It was, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth string guys that were just getting some time. So that definitely made me feel a little bit better. At the end of the day, we won. But again, when you give up points in the second half to a team that you're much better than, you almost feel like you lost and whatnot. So, but I know we're going to be ready for Texas Tech, and we'll see where it goes. And definitely looking forward to the Mariners getting one step further to trying to be champions and get that pennant. All right, here we go. Start of the third quarter. One of the most fun, entertaining Monday Night Football games of the year. 24-17 Niners. Minnie in the building. How are you? How you doing in fantasy? I was bartending today. Steichen's done a great job. Rivers, Taylor, Pittman, Pierce, Warren, Downs, and Latu. And Groupie kick 60 yards. Nice 31-yard return by Brian Robinson Jr., the RB2 for the Niners, former commander. And that is going to be first down and 10 at the San Francisco 36. And on the flip side, you got Purdy. You got CMC, Christian McCaffrey. You got George Kittle balling out like he's a top 3 tight end. Demarcus Robinson getting the touchdown early in the game over Jawan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne. And again, the Niners and the Rams are like the two teams in the NFL. You literally can plug anybody at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and you're going to be fine. And you can't say that for pretty much any other team in the NFL. It's pretty wild. But again, when you have elite coaching, you can make things like that happen. Things getting chippy here between the Colts and the Niners. They're pushing each other, grabbing each other, and hopefully punches don't get thrown. Nice, you're in the championship. Congrats, Minnie. She says it's almost 1 o'clock. Shotgun set, Purdy, short middle to George Kittle, 15-yard pass. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Move the chains. And I like the connection with Purdy and Kittle here today. Very entertaining. Congrats on your victory, and I hope you win it all. McCaffrey up the middle for a 1-yard gain. Second down and 9 at the Indianapolis 48. Nick Cross, the safety, with the tackle. And we just started the second half, 24-17 Niners. Purdy has looked amazing. Phillip Rivers as a grandpa, 10 kids. Even one of his kids has a kid now. And even though he hasn't been in the league in 4 or 5 years, he's playing damn well. And if he didn't have to go against the Seahawks and the Niners and had the Raiders and the Jets, who knows how many touchdown passes he could have against bad teams like that. No huddle. Purdy, short left to Demarcus Robinson, 1-yard pass. Moore with the tackle. I see you, Kenny. Third down and 8 at the Indianapolis 47. 15 minutes to 1 o'clock. That's always a good time. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Let's go. Beautiful form tackle by Kenny Moore. Probably the best one that I've seen in this game at this point. I mean, Niners are favored still. It's going to take a lot for the Colts to come back, because, again, they haven't really been able to stop the Niners at this point. So, I mean, is it possible the Colts come back? It's possible. But, if you're a betting man or woman, it's probably smarter to bet on the Niners at this point. I mean, unless we end up having an injury to Purdy or something of that nature in the second half. Shotgun set, Purdy, short right. Juwan Jennings is there, and it's caught. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Wow. And a very hurry-up offense here. Purdy, short left to George Kittle. And another big catch. Wow, 22-yard pass from Purdy to Kittle. And again, the Niners are able to break you down very quickly. They're able to get 40 to 50 yards on 2 separate passing plays. And Kittle is having himself a fucking day. 8 targets, 7 receptions, 115 yards, and a tutty, and he may not be done. He might be able to get in the end zone again. I did get a Powerball ticket today. I actually, normally I buy like a ticket or 2 for my best friend, and I forgot that they don't give you change in the lottery machine, so I was stuck having to buy a little bit more than I wanted, but, we'll see. There has been a lot of $50,000 winners in Oregon, within the last few months, and even getting 50 grand would be life-changing. Not necessarily life-changing money for a lot of people, but, in this economy, 50,000 could definitely go a long ways. McCaffrey off the left tackle for a yard. 1-yard run. Second and goal at the Indianapolis 3. Shotgun set. Purdy. Short right. Incomplete. Good defense there by Indy. Third and goal at the Indianapolis 3. And again, like we mentioned at the end of the first half, the Colts need to hold the Niners to 3 as often as possible to have a chance in the fourth quarter. You can't be giving up too many touchdowns. So they were able to, give up a field goal, and then they got the field goal back. And again, they're going to have to try to be able to hold them to another field goal here. But since they're at the 3-yard line, I don't know if Shanahan would just kick the field goal. If you're only a yard to 3 yards away, he may end up just going for it. All right, let's see what Purdy and Shanahan have cooking here. Now, if we could just get Latu to get in there and make a play. Purdy to Jennings, touchdown, Niners. And they just couldn't hold long enough. And like I mentioned right before halftime, this would be someone that you could be looking at as the third option of the team. And there he is, Juwan Jennings, great hands towards the pylon. Extra point is up and good. 31-17 Niners. And unfortunately, the Colts defense is not able to stop the 49ers. But with that being said, if Phillip Rivers can end up getting a field goal or a touchdown and trying to keep pace, there's a chance if they can get a big turnover late in the third quarter or the fourth quarter to kind of even up the score, they might be able to kind of keep this one somewhat close. But at the moment, they're down by 2 scores. Well, to be fair, both defenses aren't really doing that well. So, it's definitely more, offensive heavy. It's like you don't got Nick Bosa, you don't got Fred Warner, you don't got Dre Greenlaw, you got no Talanoa Hufanga, you got a bunch of no-name players that Robert Saleh is trying to coach up. And then for Indy, you got DeForest Buckner, who just came back, today, last night. And then you got Latu. And then obviously you have Kenny Moore and a few other guys, but this Colt defense is nowhere near as complete as the offense. So, again, it's definitely a very offensive-minded, Indianapolis team and a very offensive-minded San Francisco team. The difference is, one team has got Robert Saleh as defensive coordinator and the other one doesn't. So. (31-17) Niners. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. We're at 50 to go, and 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. 4 tutties already. But Phillip Rivers was balling out early on as well, so... But 18 for 23, 227 yards, 4 TDs, and no picks. Now, obviously, if the Colts had 2 or 3 Latus, then maybe he only has 2 touchdowns. But, unfortunately, they only have 1. And, he did force the fumble. But, of course, it went into a tight end's hands, after it popped up in the air. So a little bit of bad luck. But, that's what happens sometimes. Not every team, is going to have a monster defense. Not everyone's built like the Texans or the Broncos or, one of the, top end defenses in the league. So you always got a little room to grow. (31-17) Niners. But I like that they've been spreading the ball around to a lot of their options. Alec Pierce scored the first touchdown from Phillip Rivers, and then we ended up getting Demarcus Robinson with the second touchdown. That was surprising, right? Then it ended up going to Christian McCaffrey, which was a no-brainer. Then they ended up going back to Alec Pierce again for his second touchdown. Then George Kittle got into the mix for a touchdown. Pinheiro had a field goal. Groupie had a field goal. And then now we're at Juwan Jennings. So really the only player that hasn't got in the end zone that you would assume might have a chance is Kendrick Bourne. And then obviously if you're a Colt fan, you got a couple options here with Downs, Warren, and especially Michael Pittman, who hasn't really got as many looks, but hopefully he will before this game is over. Pinheiro with a 63-yard kick and a nice 33-yard return from Coleman Owen. They had to switch the kickoff returner, punt returner after the fumble in the first half that led to points for the Niners. And Jonathan Taylor off the right guard, no gain. 2nd down and 10 at the Indianapolis 35. Oh, fingers crossed with that Powerball. One of the 4th or 5th largest, Powerball drawings. Anytime it goes over $1 billion, you should buy a ticket for $2. I mean, what do you have to lose besides $2, right? And even if you end up matching a few numbers, you could win, $1,000 to $50,000. And that could be definitely nice for anyone's pocketbook. And we got a 15-yard penalty here for unnecessary roughness on Lenore. Demondre Lenore with the unnecessary roughness, and that's going to be a 15-yard penalty. First down and 10 now at the 50. And again, if you're, the Niners, that's unacceptable. Saleh is going to tear Lenore a new one. I mean, you're up by 14. You don't want to give them any extra, to get closer into this game. Shotgun set. Taylor up the middle for a yard. Second down and 9 at the San Francisco 49. Lenore was trying to do his best version of Charles Peanut Tillman with the punch out, but you got to do it before the whistle blows, not after. Rivers with the audible at the line. And short middle to Pittman. Nice 14-yard pass. Mustafa with the tackle. First down, Colts. Move the chains. There we go. And again, this is really the main piece that hasn't been able to get enough going, and nice to be able to see him target, Michael Pittman. Now I need to see a little Warren and a little Downs if they're going to go deep. Keep it moving, Phillip. And do not forget about Jonathan Taylor. Make sure you keep the offense well balanced here. 15 rushing touchdowns from weeks 1 through 10, but only 1 in the last few weeks. Got to be able to get that up there. Less than 10 minutes to go here in the third quarter. Niners up by 2 touchdowns, but the Colts are driving. Let's go, Grandpa Rivers. Let's make it happen, baby. And I really like the Colts unis. All blue with that black helmet and the blue stripe. It's a very clean look. And then challenge flag comes out. They're going to see if that was actually a completed catch all the way through. Obviously, we see the ball squirt out at the end, but yeah. That call should obviously stay as pass complete, but we're going to have to wait for the challenge here. All right, we're at 34 likes, 16 more to hit the goal. Let's go, baby. Who will be next for Phillip Rivers? Will it be Alec Pierce? Will it be Tyler Warren? Could they go with a deep route to Josh Downs? Very possible. And I would love to see Jonathan Taylor hit pay dirt before this game is over as well. Call upheld, and the Niners lose the challenge. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 35. And even though Rivers' numbers aren't as good as Brock Purdy, 15 for 22, 189 yards with 2 touchdowns and no picks. I mean, I'll take that for a guy that's 44, 45 years old that hasn't played ball in 4 or 5 years. And hopefully he'll be able to get his 3rd touchdown pass and get over that 200-yard mark here in just a moment. And on first down and 10, Jonathan Taylor off that right side for 2 yards. Okay, Unonu with the tackle. Second down and 8 at the San Francisco 33 for Phillip Rivers. All right, Phillip, keep it moving. I want a back and forth game here. Bunch of Niner Santa fans there in the front row. Less than 9 minutes to go in the third quarter. Shotgun set. Rivers. Short middle to Tyler Warren. Incomplete. Mustafa for the Niners with the coverage. That's going to turn into third down and 8 at the San Francisco 33. Got to go to Pierce or Downs on third down here. You had Pittman with an opportunity. Warren with a few opportunities. As well as Taylor with a couple runs. You got to go to Pierce or Downs. You go to one of those guys, they can get the first down. Same thing with Pittman. Shotgun set. Let's see what they do. Come on, Rivers. Shotgun set. And they go to Josh Downs. Oh, incomplete. Fourth down and 7 at the San Francisco 32. Stout and Bethune there with the coverage. And now it's going to be fourth down and 7 at the San Francisco 32. Let's see if they bring out the field goal unit for a long field goal. I mean, you can't really go for it on 4th and 7 at this point, you would assume. But getting it to 31-20 still keeps you kind of in the mix. Stout has been everywhere, sideline to sideline in the game. And field goal is up by Groupie, and it is good. 31-20 Niners. Well, we got 51 points combined, and there's a good chance that we can get 60 combined, maybe even close to 70 before this one is up. And obviously we wanted Phillip to kind of keep in that same rhythm in the first quarter, but Niner defense has started to play a little bit better, after that second quarter. And now it's 31-20 Niners. And we'll see if Brock Purdy can go for his 5th touchdown pass against the Colts. .8:16 left in the third quarter, 31-20 Niners. And if you're just tuning in to the broadcast, Alec Pierce with a 20-yard touchdown pass from Phillip Rivers, looking very good to start off the game, 7-0 Colts. Then Demarcus Robinson catching a 22-yarder from Brock Purdy, making it 7-7. And then after a turnover on special teams by the Colts with a fumble, Christian McCaffrey with a 2-yard pass from Purdy, 14-7 49ers. Then as we go into the second quarter, Phillip Rivers goes back to Alec Pierce again with another touchdown, 14-14 all. George Kittle gets in the end zone from Purdy later in that second quarter, 21-14. Pinheiro with a field goal for the Niners, making it 24-14, the first time the Niners start to kind of pull away. And then Groupie ends up getting a field goal before halftime, 39-yarder for the Colts, making it 24-17. And then as we get into the third quarter, Purdy stays hot. Juwan Jennings, 3-yard touchdown pass, 31-17. And then Groupie answers back with a 51-yard field goal after the Rivers drive stalls for the Colts. And that's where we're sitting right now with 8:16 left in the third, 31-20 Niners. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. My boy. And obviously, the Colts defense and their inability to stop Purdy, they're going to need, a pick six, a fumble for a touchdown, something of that nature to get back in it. If they can get that play, that'll give them a chance. But if we don't see the pick six or the fumble for touchdown, it almost feels it's just inevitable, that the Niners will win in this game. Rookie kick 64 yards, and Sky Moore with another nice return, 30 yards. I imagine he's happy not to be on Kansas City at this point. And it's first down and 10 at the San Francisco 32. We've got about 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Niners up by 11. And we will see what Brock Purdy and the Niner offense has in store. On first down and 10, they hand it off to Christian McCaffrey off that right side for 7 yards. Sampson there with the tackle. Second down and 3 at the San Francisco 39. I mean, we'll do primetime games. We're going to be doing, Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, and then the college football playoff. It just depends on if they're on at that point, and if they're not, then when they end up playing in the playoffs, then we'll end up doing those games. 9-yard run there by Christian McCaffrey. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Move the chains. Cross and Bynum with the tackle there for the Colts. First down and 10 at the San Francisco 48. Well, we obviously have seen the Raiders have been terrible. So, there hasn't really been a whole lot to talk about. Obviously Genty is there, with Brock Bowers, but that's pretty much all they got. So, I feel like, Abuka was great in the first month. Tyler Warren has been very good for the Colts at tight end, but I think Travion Henderson, to me, has been probably the best offensive, rookie, for the season based off impact, touchdowns and whatnot. But I think Genty could turn into a pretty good player, but they got a long ways to go. Purdy going deep middle to Juwan Jennings. 19-yard pass. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Move the chains. First down and 10 at the Indianapolis 33. Nice catch there by Juwan Jennings. And they go now to Brian Robinson Jr. off that right tackle for an 11-yard gain. And that's going to be first down and 10 at the Indianapolis 22. And it just feels like no matter who they put in and no matter who they throw or run to, it's positive yards almost every time. And that's a killer, if you're the Colts. You want to be able to get a few stops. You want to get a couple sacks, picks, fumbles. But unfortunately, Purdy is just on one right now. And, you have really the offensive line to thank for that. Nobody on that D line for the Colts can break through, and it shows. But once we get into the playoffs, we'll be doing, a lot of NFL playoff games. There's no doubt about that. And we'll be doing a majority of the college football playoff games. Not every single one, but most, 90% of the games the rest of the way on college. I mean, as far as the college football playoff games are concerned. Shotgun set. Brian Robinson Jr. off to that right guard for a 1-yard gain. Cross and Pratt in there for the tackle by the Colts. Second down and 9 at the Indianapolis 21. And Purdy is definitely motivated to try to get his 5th touchdown, pass here momentarily. But we know that Robinson or Run CMC could actually punch one in off the ground as well. Shotgun set. Purdy going short right to Christian McCaffrey. Incomplete. Second and 9 turns now into third and 9 at the Indy 21. And if you're the Colts, you need a field goal stop. You can't let them score touchdowns the rest of the game if you're going to come back. You have to hold to, 3, so that way you're down by 14. Because if they end up scoring a touchdown, it's 38-20, it's over. We know the Colts could still score a couple more field goals or maybe a touchdown and a field goal in the fourth, but it's not going to be enough. So you got to be able to hold to 3 the rest of the way, which is not going to be an easy task whatsoever. Rob in the building, what's good? Go Mariners. Tridents up, baby, all day, every day. Can't wait till we get to February 20th, and that'll be the first spring training game, but I don't know if it'll be televised, though. Purdy, short left to Kendrick Bourne, incomplete. Oh, no, that was actually completed. 2-yard pass there. 4th down and 7 now at the Indy 19, and I assume the field goal unit will come out, and it should be 34-20 here momentarily. Considering the Ducks played with their starters in the first half and we kicked their ass, and then we brought in the backups and they ended up playing awesome against our 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th string guys, and that's why they scored so many points. I had to go back and watch the game to see how many, backups were truly in, or if we were just getting our ass kicked by our starters playing bad, or did we actually, implement a lot of the backups, and that's what we did. Pinheiro field goal is up and good. Colts are trying to hang around, and again, they need a touchdown, a stop, and a touchdown, and they just haven't proven they can do that just yet. But if they can keep holding the Niners to field goals the rest of the way, and they can come up with a touchdown and a turnover and a touchdown and another touchdown, they might be able to get it somewhat close before this one is over. But, you definitely can tell who the better team is at this point. And, it's pretty impressive what the Niners have been able to do with all their injuries. It's very impressive. TJ in the building, what's good? And I think if the Oregon starters would have played that whole game, James Madison still would have scored a little, but not as much as they did, against obviously guys that, were getting snaps and they haven't played, for a couple games, So again, when you get guys that are young, that haven't played in a few games or haven't played in, 6 games, 7 games, and you're throwing them out there, even against James Madison competition, if they're going with their starters, even though they're a small school, they only had 1 loss. Yeah, they're in a lower conference, but still, there is a pecking order to college football and the NFL when you have starters playing and backups. But even though we won the game, it kind of felt like we lost because we gave up all those points in the second half. But I know that the rest of the way, you're not going to see those backups play probably the rest of the season, and that's why Dan Lanning threw them in. Just in case some of the starters get hurt when we play Texas Tech, Indiana, Ohio State, or Georgia, that if they need to push those guys in, that they won't be afraid or nervous. They at least got some playing time, before, we go this last 3-game attempt to try to win the Natty. Texas Tech on January 1, we win that. Play Indiana, which will be one of the toughest games of the season, like it was in the regular season. That was our only loss at Autzen. They are very good. They won the Big Ten for a reason and beating Oregon and Ohio State. And then obviously if we can get past Texas Tech and Indiana, then we would be playing Ohio State or Georgia for the Natty. And I would want to play Ohio State. I think Georgia isn't as good as Ohio State, and they could beat them, but I want to get revenge, on Ohio State on what they did with Chip Kelly on us last year, at the Rose Bowl. We were undefeated, had about a month off. They came in there. Chip Kelly knew exactly what to run, and it definitely helps when you have guys like Jeremiah Smith and Will Howard on the same page. And it's just kind of sad that in that Rose Bowl against the Buckeyes, the game was over in the first quarter. Anytime you end up getting down by 21 to 28 points, you're not coming back. And that one stung bad. And just like the Indiana loss did as well, but I kind of knew we were going to lose against Indiana. At that time, they were top 10 in offense, defense, and special teams, and they're still, that dominant team. So, anyone that hasn't watched Hoosier football in the last 2 years, better pay attention. It definitely looks very, very strong with Cignetti at the helm. Pinheiro with a 65-yard kick, and that's going to turn into a touchback for the Colts. 1st down and 10 at the Indy 35. What's good, TJ? What's good, Minnie? And if we can get Phillip Rivers to play like he did on the first couple drives of the game, we can get back in this. But again, the only way the Colts are going to get close is if they can continue to score touchdowns the rest of the game, and they're going to have to get a turnover that leads to points immediately, whether it's a pick six or a fumble for a touchdown, or they get an interception or fumble, and then they score on like the next play. And if they can do something like that, That might be the only way they come back in this game. Jonathan Taylor up the middle for a 3-yard gain. 2nd down and 7 at the Indianapolis 38. We're at 50 on the dono train, 50 to go. We've gained a few subs on the sub count, which is great. And obviously, we're still trying to climb our way to the likes, and we'll see if we get a few more people to come through before the game is over. And we won't have a stream tomorrow or Wednesday, but I will be back on Christmas evening for the Broncos and Chiefs. Too bad Mahomes and Minshew got hurt. We know the Broncos are going to beat the shit out of the Chiefs, but at least it'll give us a chance to hang out Christmas evening. But I am going to the biggest arcade in the United States tomorrow, which is very exciting, over 650 to 680 games. So I'm not going to be able to play everything, but I'm definitely looking forward to spending some time with my best friend and having a little bit of fun. Shotgun set, Jonathan Taylor off that right side, and Keon White with the tackle. That's going to turn into 3rd down and 2 for Phillip Rivers at the Indianapolis 43. Wine o'clock, dab o'clock, every single day. That's a good time. Seahawks, Rams, and Niners. You got the Panthers and the Niners for the Hawks. You got the Falcons and the Cardinals for the Rams, the easiest schedule. And then the Niners, golly, Bears and Seahawks. That's going to be challenging. But again, I feel like the Niners and the Bears are kind of those wild card teams that if they play well, they could knock off, the teams at the top. The Seahawks, the Rams, or the Eagles, if they don't play a perfect game. The only 2 teams that could do that are the Bears and Niners at this point in the season, because it feels like the Packers and the Lions are trending downwards, and then the Buccaneers and Panthers are just not fucking good enough. And then on the AFC side, you got the Bills, you got the Patriots and the Broncos and the Jags, and then the Chargers and the Texans, and then someone's got to make it between the Steelers and Ravens, and it looks like it'll be the Steelers, more than likely. Shotgun set, Rivers, short middle to Mo Alley Cox. We haven't heard him here today. And that's a nice 8-yard pass from Rivers. 2nd down and 2 at the San Francisco 45. Appreciate you, Minnie. Hope everyone is having a fantastic holiday. I ended up going to Petco for my pup and giving her a nice new toy to play with today. And I got a humongous bone to give her. I'm going to wrap it up on Christmas. So, got to make sure that, the fur babies are taken care of. And even when it ends up being a holiday, she will not be missed. I'm going to make sure that she gets the toys that she deserves. 2nd down and 2 at the San Francisco 45. 34-20 Niners. And we've got an injury on the field there, Bethune, for the Niners. Hopefully he's okay. One thing you would like about Oregon, Minnie, we got everything here. Wineries, a bunch of them. Breweries, a bunch of them. Dispensaries, a bunch of them. We might be known to have, some of the most strip clubs, in the United States, but again, not everyone, is into that particular scene, but we got great hiking, areas and camping areas, walking areas. If you, have, a dog or whatnot to be able to, go on adventures with, like myself. But hey, if you like wine and you like beer and you like dispensaries, this is the place to be. Shotgun set, Rivers, short left to Michael Pittman Jr., and that's a loss of 1, unfortunately, as he trips and falls over himself. And a hurry up here with the shotgun set with Phillip Rivers. Taylor up the middle and a 3-yard gain. 1st down, Colts. Move the chains. Got less than a minute to go in the 3rd quarter. 34-20 Niners. Yeah, it's crazy how dispensaries are not legal in all 50 states. It's kind of wild, but I'm definitely happy that it's legal here. End of the third quarter, 34-20 Niners. But I definitely had to make a trip in before the holidays today. I made the mistake of going to the, big mall because I needed to be able to get some new shoes for me and the pup. And it was extremely busy at Dick's Sporting Goods, but I knew exactly what I wanted, so I got in and out. But, you've got to make sure you get all your things taken care of as we're getting into the new year. And it's going to be 2nd down and 9 once we get back from the commercial break at the San Francisco 42. Niners up by 14, and if the Colts can score a quick touchdown, and if somehow get a fucking stop on the Niners before this game is over, they might end up having somewhat of a chance. All right, Phillip Rivers. Don't forget about Jonathan Taylor. Make sure you look for Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce. Don't forget about Tyler Warren. And if you go deep threat, Josh Downs can do it. Let's go, baby. Oh, for sure. It sounds like what you guys have available and where we're at, it'd be a good time for sure. What's the best time, for you guys to be able to make money? Obviously, when the Blue Jays were rolling and they beat the Mariners and then made the World Series, I imagine things were getting pretty crazy down there because it's not like the Raptors, are going to be good. Obviously, they were good a few years ago with Kawhi, and they ended up, winning the championship. And I imagine, vibes were very high in Toronto, at that time. But since then, obviously the Blue Jays' emergence of being a good team like the Mariners, I imagine this year has been pretty fruitful for you, I would assume. With tips and people coming in and wanting to celebrate sports and whatnot. Too bad the Montreal Expos, are no longer, in Canada as well. I'd rather have the Expos than the Washington Nationals. I always enjoyed watching the Expos, and I thought they had dope uniforms as well. But, they just couldn't get enough funding and not everyone on the same page. And, how sports goes. Sometimes people want to, end up moving, whether it's, good for the team or not. And, at least the Blue Jays look like they're going to be the Mariner rival for quite some time. And, there's a pretty good chance that, the Blue Jays and the Mariners will have, more opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years, to try to get there. It's just unfortunate that how good the Dodgers are, that more than likely, if you make a World Series, you're probably going to have to go against them. Now, if you can find a way to make a World Series and you don't play them, then the American League might end up winning, but again, it's like, you guys were very close, and, we don't really know how far the Mariners would have been able to take that series if we would be able to take it 6 or 7 games. I believe we would have, but, they played very, very good, and I think it opened up a lot of eyes in baseball, and, how solid the Blue Jays were. Same thing with the Mariners, that we were a lot more talented than I think people wanted to give both of our teams credit for. I mean, we might have not been able to win the championship this year, but again, there'll be definitely a lot of people rooting for the Blue Jays and Mariners moving forward, for sure. Shotgun set, Rivers, short left to Tyler Warren, and a nice 19-yard pass. First down, Colts. Move the chains. Nice job by Phillip Rivers. He might have 10 kids and be a grandpa, but he can still ball. Nice job there from Rivers to Tyler Warren, bringing that electricity. Move the chains. First down, Colts. Rivers, short left to Tyler Warren. 8-yard pass. He's going Warren and Warren. 2nd down and 2 at the San Francisco 15, and it looks like they are getting very close to being able to get into the end zone here. Well, a little bit of a disappointing finish, not being able to beat the Huskies in the bowl. But again, it's not like, they recruit or have the same coach that they had back when they had a lot of success. So there's still going to be a team, that's, notable that will, splash here and there, but they definitely don't recruit the same way that they did, maybe 15, 20 years ago. But again, it's all about coaching. If you got an elite coach like they did back in the day, then recruits will come. If you don't, then again, they're going to go somewhere else. Rivers, short right to Mo Alley Cox. And that's going to be an 8-yard pass, 2nd and goal at the San Francisco 1. And this is going to turn into a Jonathan Taylor touchdown here in just one moment. I mean, you're at 2nd and goal at the 1, handed off to Jonathan Taylor. He's only had 1 touchdown in the last 4 or 5 games. Let's punch it in and get him the tutty. Yeah, but you got to think, you went longer and deeper than anybody has against the Dodgers in a long time. I mean, game 7 and going into extra innings. And, if you guys were able to finish it off, you would have won. But, I knew as soon as it went to extra innings, the Dodgers were going to win. They're just one of those teams that if they hang around too long, eventually, they're going to win. And, just sometimes, bad luck with the bullpen. And there it is. Jonathan Taylor up the middle. My ESP is on point. Touchdown, Colts. There it is. 34-26. Niners. There we go. You got to give him that look. And nice job there by the Colts making me look smart. 34-26. Niners. Extra point incoming here shortly. Now, if the Colts could fucking get a stop, they might actually come back and win this game. But they haven't had any indication that can stop the Niners at this point yet. Yeah. Well, a lot of Blue Jay, people are going to be sore losers. I mean, think about how us Mariner fans feel. We feel cheated. We were 3 innings away from making the World Series. We've never been there before. You guys went to a World Series in the early 90s and won back-to-back with Joe Carter. So you guys have already been champions. We've never even been to the big game, So obviously we're the only team in MLB that's never been, So it's like we want to get there and we want to win. And realistically, we would have lost the Dodgers too, but we would have, liked the opportunity to play a little bit longer, And I know you got to crawl before you walk. You guys had a great team, but it was painful for us too. Extra point is up by Groupie, the former Saint kicker, and it's good. 34-27 Niners, and this is the closest the Colts have been since the first quarter. Now, if the Colts defense could actually fucking step up and make a goddamn play, then we could actually get this one closer. But again, you got Latu, who's fantastic as a pass rusher, right? You got, Kenny Moore at corner. You got DeForest Buckner on the D line as well. But it's kind of like the Buccaneers. It's like if you only got 3 or 4 guys out of 11, it's just not going to cut it. It's like you're especially when another offense is rolling. When you got players like Purdy and CMC and Kittle, and then you get role players like Demarcus Robinson, Juwan Jennings, and Kendrick Bourne that look like all-stars, Pro Bowl kind of players, even though they're not. But again, when they're rolling, and also the offensive line and the defensive line have done a great job for the Niners to this point. And even though the Niner defense hasn't really been that good either at this point, that one fumble that, on special teams by the Colts that turned into the touchdown, that's the difference. Otherwise, it would be 27-27 right now. So, I mean, at least the Colts are, close. And again, I thought this would be a fun game, a little bit better than yesterday's. And right now, 34-27 with 12:41 left in the fourth. I love it. I might be a defensive-oriented fan, but every once in a while, I love high-scoring games. Yeah, Cal will, for sure. And we got Julio still, and, even though we lost Polo, we might be able to bring Gino back, and we got a lot of young, up-and-coming, guys that are in the farm. Some will end up getting called. And we'll definitely be buyers at the deadline, to add to the team and whatnot. And we're definitely going to be in the mix to win the West again. We just got to, just be patient and wait for our time. And, again, as long as we continue to keep building the roster, it's almost inevitable that we'll get there. I don't know how many years it'll take, but it's definitely an exciting time, on the channel. And, if the Mariners were, to win it all, that would give us the big boost on the channel that we've been waiting for. So, and we did get a big boost this year, but if we ended up winning it all, that would take us to a sub count. Because again, my long-term goal, is going from where we're at now at like 23,000 to 50 to 100,000. And obviously I know I'm going to get there, because again, I don't plan on stopping anytime, soon. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. So eventually we'll get there. But, if you end up winning, a pennant or a championship, and you're, the streamer of that particular team, there's a good chance you can get a huge lift. And then also going into that next year, and based on what we did this year, ALCS Game 7, I know that we're going to, get some maybe, fans that were fair weather fans of the Mariners that will be more invested this year and beyond. And that's all we need. We need to keep growing the fan base. Groupie kicks 52 yards, and Sky Moore with a 17-yard return. First down and 10 for the Niners. Shotgun set, Purdy, short left to Juwan Jennings, and a nice 17-yard pass. First down, Niners, move the chains. Blackman with the tackle. But again, when I'm watching this Colt defense, it kind of reminds me of the Buccaneers. It's like you can score points, but you can't stop anybody. And there's nothing worse as a defensive fan when you can't stop anyone in the run game or the pass game. But again, the Niners do have some real special players. Purdy, CMC, Kittle, as the top guys. And then obviously even the other backups are pretty fucking solid. Purdy makes everyone look good. And Shanahan is a great offensive coordinator and head coach. Shotgun set, McCaffrey up the middle for a 5-yard gain. Cameron Mitchell, the corner for the Colts, with the tackle. Second down and 5 at the Indy 48. And as you've noticed, you haven't really seen a whole lot of sacks, a whole lot of fumbles, a whole lot of picks for either team. So again, every big play moving forward will be magnified. And again, the only way the Colts are going to come back is if they can get a turnover in the fourth quarter. If they don't get it, they're just going to be close, but not close enough. Shotgun set, McCaffrey off that right end for a 4-yard run. Gallimore with the tackle. Third down and 1 at the Indianapolis 44. I assume this would be McCaffrey again, or you could even do QB sneak with Purdy. I mean, that's a part because of Shanahan, a part of Purdy, a part because of the O-line, and a part because of the call and the way that they run their offense. I mean, especially when you got the best dual threat at running back in Christian McCaffrey. He's a guy that can run and catch. So even if he doesn't get the ball handed off to him, he can definitely catch a screen pass and take it 30, 40, 50 yards for a tutty. And that definitely makes the offense very scary. McCaffrey bouncing off that left tackle. Speaking of CMC, and a beautiful 24-yard run that puts him over 100 yards. 18 carries and 118 yards now. First down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. First down and 10 at the Indianapolis 20. And again, it feels like it's just inevitable. The Niners are about to score a touchdown. And if not, they might end up getting a field goal. But it kind of feels like CMC, Kittle, Demarcus Robinson, Juwan Jennings, or Kendrick Bourne are waiting in the wings. McCaffrey's a cheat code. The league is better when he's healthy. Shotgun set, Brian Robinson Jr., the backup running back, formerly of the Commanders, for a 1-yard run. Second down and 9 at the Indianapolis 19. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. We're at 50 to go, and we're looking for 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Agreed. Receivers are open like 7-Eleven, and he can block. And, Kittle is a great blocker too. Like if you actually look at a lot of the Niner players, everyone knows how good Trent Williams is at left tackle, first ballot Hall of Famer, right? But again, the whole unit has been very cohesive here today. And it's second down and 9 at the Indianapolis 19. Look at that. Munoz, Rofe, and Ogden. And Trent Williams, one of 4 offensive tackles all time with 11 Pro Bowl selections. First ballot Hall of Famer. And again, one of the best offensive tackles we've ever seen. Niners have always had, so many good players. And again, you can plug and play any quarterback, any running back, any wide receiver, any tight end on the Niners or Rams, and you're going to be successful. But the main thing that's held the Niners back from winning a Super Bowl is actually having a quarterback on the Joe Montana, Steve Young level. You've had Kaepernick, you've had Purdy, not good enough. You need to have that guy that's a Hall of Famer. that's really the one thing that's kind of held them back besides Shanahan's shitty play calling in the fourth quarter. Again, we've seen it when he was with Matt Ryan, obviously on the Falcons, and the Patriots came back. He's had some chances with the Niners, and he's a great 1 through 4 quarter coach in the regular season, and he's great from 1 to 3 quarters in the big game, Super Bowl, but he just can't coach a fourth quarter, and again, at some point, you would think that he'll have at least one more shot before his career is up, whether it be with the Niners or another team down the road, but he's got to be able to figure out how to get the job done like Sean McVay on the Rams. Both incredible young, intelligent minds in play calling, but McVay definitely has the edge. 3rd down and 9 at the Indianapolis 19. Absolutely. Yeah, CMC is a cheat code. Hand it off to him, he can get 20 to 50 yards. Throw a screen pass, same thing. And again, if you don't go to CMC, then obviously it's going to leave the door open for one of the role players to step up like Bourne or Juwan Jennings, who normally wouldn't really even be a name, if they were on another team, but Purdy makes everyone look good. Shotgun set, Purdy, short middle to Juwan Jennings, and that's a nice 11-yard pass. 1st and goal at the Indianapolis 8. Let's see what happens here on 1st down and goal at the 8. It's almost inevitable you're going to end up getting another touchdown. Jennings got one. Demarcus Robinson has one. Kittle's in there. CMC is in there. So really the only guy that is left out of the party is Kendrick Bourne. But I don't know what the likelihood of Bourne getting the touchdown on this particular drive. It kind of feels like they might go to McCaffrey or Kittle, one of their more trusted targets here, but it's all about who gets open. And it seems like everyone is open for the Niners, so I guess it's just pick and choose, right? 1st and goal, and McCaffrey up the middle, run CMC, loss of a yard. We haven't seen that often. 2nd and goal at the Indianapolis 9, and Colts are running out of time. If they had any shred of a defense, they could be a little bit closer, but I feel like I'm almost watching the Buccaneers, but they're just wearing blue. It's like, yeah, you can score points, but man, can you stop someone? Can we get some sacks, some fumbles, some picks? And apparently not tonight. But I am proud of Grandpa Rivers. Not many guys could be 44, 45, not playing the game for 4 or 5 years to look as good as he has in the last few weeks. Imagine if he didn't have to play the Seahawks and the Niners. And again, like I mentioned this earlier in the broadcast, if they would have played like the Raiders and the Jets or the Browns, Rivers could maybe throw for 4 or 5 touchdown passes in each game. So Purdy going short right, and they're going to Tongas there, the tight end. That's interesting. That's a freebie there for the Colts now. 3rd and goal at the Indianapolis 9. Now you just have to try to hold them to 3 or nothing. And Zaire Franklin with the coverage. I don't think I would have went to Jake on that particular play. But again, he was getting chased on that particular play and just threw it into the end zone. Well, look at the toe drag swag by Tongas there. Did he actually get the tutty there? I think he did. Very close. And they say, fuck it, shotgun set, Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, touchdown, Niners. They said Tongas might have had it, but they didn't care. They said, fuck it, let's get McCaffrey another touchdown. And I think that obviously is going to seal the deal, but I still would love to see Phillip Rivers score one more touchdown before this one is over. But that looked like a touchdown there from Tongas. But again, they said, you know what? Christian McCaffrey is so good, we're just going to throw him the ball. Where is the defense, Colts? It's not existent. And Christian McCaffrey with another tutty. Extra point is up and good. 41-27 Niners. And again, if the Niners play like this, and the Bears as well, they could end up upsetting the Seahawks, Rams, or Eagles. Seahawks, Rams, and Eagles are the top 3 teams, but I know if I was in the playoffs, I wouldn't want to play the Niners or the Bears. You don't really know where, they're going to play, and you don't know how they're going to play. But again, they're playing better than the Packers and Lions at this point. And then the Buccaneers and Panthers have no chance to win a game, realistically. Same thing goes with the Steelers. If they make it, they're probably not winning, but and again, I feel like the Bills are the best team in the AFC. I still think the Broncos and the Patriots are good, but again, they had some flaws in the last few weeks. Jags have caught up, and then you still got the Chargers and the Texans. And then obviously the Steelers more than likely will make it over the Ravens. So I don't think the Steelers really can do anything. Chargers, don't really have a reputation of doing anything in the playoffs, but maybe it'll change with Herbert and Harbaugh this year. We'll see. Texans, you got a great defense with Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. roll tide, but I don't know if I trust CJ Stroud in that offense this year. Jags are getting hot, offense and defense with Trevor Lawrence. So that's kind of surprising. I think he's got 10 touchdowns and no picks in the last couple games, so he's getting hot at the right time. Broncos got a great defense, but the offense with Bo Nix, not so much. They only have Cortland Sutton, RJ Harvey, and obviously Evan Ingram, and that's not enough to win games against teams like the Jags. They lost this weekend. And then the Patriots, very well-rounded, probably the most well-rounded team, offense, defense, special teams. But again, what is their kryptonite? It's Josh Allen and the Bills. So right now, we could get Bills Seahawks, Bills Rams, Bills Eagles. Not to say that the Broncos and Patriots can't make it, but as long as Josh Allen and James Cook don't get hurt, and I know the run defense for the Bills stinks. It's like bottom 3, but their secondary is top 5. So again, the only way you beat the Bills if you run on them. And again, we'll see where it goes, but it kind of feels like it could be Eagles, Bills, Rams, Bills, Seahawks, Bills. But again, if we end up getting a little bit of craziness, don't be surprised if teams like the Bears, the Niners, ruin the party, so to speak. And then obviously if you're looking at that second tier, maybe, Jags and Chargers, might be able to do the same, but I don't think they're playing as good necessarily as the Bears and Niners. I guess you could say the Jags are, but the Chargers, are decent. But again, I still think we have question marks about them. 7:37 left in the fourth quarter, 41-27 Niners. But again, college football playoff is going to be super sexy and exciting. You got 4 teams that can win it all: Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, and Oregon. And then you got, I think, about 5 teams that can win it all in the NFL. I think you got Seahawks, Rams, Eagles, Bills, and then New England. And then I guess you throw Denver in there as well. I think those might be the 6. But again, I have some question marks with Denver. They're on that level with the Jags, and the Jags beat them this weekend. So I don't know, but it feels like we'll see what happens with Denver if they can get, rolling at the right time. But I definitely have some, if they had more offensive weapons, I'd feel a little bit better. New England's more well-rounded than Denver, and Buffalo has Josh Allen and James Cook. And, it might be the first time that a team that doesn't really have a dominant defense makes a Super Bowl. But again, nobody has Josh Allen. No one's got James Cook, and, those guys are incredible. So we'll see what happens. And I think for ratings, if the Bills made the Super Bowl over New England and Denver, it would be more entertaining. Nice run return here by the Colts. Fantastic job there by Indy on special teams. And then again, if it ends up being Eagles, Seahawks, Rams, those will be good ratings out of any of those 3 teams. And obviously we already saw the Eagles last year. So obviously if we ended up seeing Seahawks, Bills, or Rams, Bills, that would be really sexy. 10-yard penalty there after the kick. Offensive holding is declined. And it's going to be first down and 10 at the Indy 20. Yeah, he's got a foot injury. X-rays were cleared, but again, he is a dog. Shotgun set, Rivers, sacked. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. But they are lucky. They end up recovering their own fumble there by the center, Danny Pinter, and that could have definitely been the nail in the coffin. Second down and 25 at the 5, and again, this is the last thing that the Colt O-line needs to do. Shotgun set, and Rivers goes to Tyler Warren, incomplete. And it looks like all of that momentum that Phillip Rivers had, Grandpa Rivers in the first quarter, that's gone, and again, now the Niners are feasting, on the O-line that's getting a little bit tired. And now it's third down and 25 at the 5, and there's a pretty good chance that the Colts may not score any more points the rest of the game. Yeah, and also I like the simple fact that Allen, when you end up, getting married or you're about to have a baby or you have a kid and whatnot, there's extra motivation, to get the job done. And obviously Mahomes and the Chiefs have been the kind of the thorn in the side of the Bills. And then now you start to see, Denver and New England and a few other teams, Jacksonville, get better than they were last year. But I wouldn't definitely count out Buffalo. Shotgun set, Rivers going deep to Josh Downs and incomplete. And that's going to be 4th down and 25 at the Indy 5, and they will be forced to punt. But to me, I think Buffalo is the most entertaining team in the AFC. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, you don't have to be a Bills fan or a Josh Allen fan, but I feel like they're the most entertaining. New England is the most well-rounded, but their style of football isn't for everyone. Sometimes their games are a little boring, based on the style of play, even though it is very methodical and it's, very, very, well-coached team, on both sides of the ball with Vrabel and McDaniels calling the plays. Denver's got a great D, but, Bo Nix only has so much to work with there with Sean Payton. So sometimes they look good, sometimes they don't. And then obviously Jacksonville's getting hot at the right time. And I don't think anybody believes in the Texans or Chargers are good enough to make a deep run, even though I do like the Texan defense a lot. I really like Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., but I just don't know if they have enough offense out of CJ Stroud to, make a deep run. And I don't think they do. I do like CJ and Nico Collins a lot, though. Oh. And a nice tackle there by the Colts special teams. Rigoberto Sanchez with the punt. Sky Moore has had a busy day. The former Chief special teams specialist. Now on the Niners with an 8-yard return. Now it's 1st down and 10 at the Indianapolis 44. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Niners score another touchdown to get to 48. First down and 10. Hands off to Christian McCaffrey off the right tackle for a yard. Zaire Franklin with the coverage. That's 20 carries, 118 yards for Christian McCaffrey. And that's 2nd down and 9 at the Indianapolis 43. Chief O'Chief in the building. What's good, brother? How are you? Happy holidays, bro. And again, no stream on Tuesday or Wednesday, but I will be back on Christmas for the Chiefs and the Broncos. And then, and obviously as we continue, forward, we'll be doing college football and NFL, obviously the rest of the way. Shotgun set, Purdy, short middle to run CMC, Christian McCaffrey. And that's going to be a 3-yard pass. 6 receptions, 29 yards, and 2 tutties for run CMC. So even though he hasn't got one on the ground per se, he's always a threat. The best dual threat in football when he's healthy, period. 3rd down and 6 at the Indianapolis 40. Got any plans for the holidays, Chief O'Chief? Well, Brock Purdy has been balling. 24 for 32, 288 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no picks. Is that good? Electric. And Purdy short right to Jake Tongas, who got robbed of a toe drag swag touchdown, but that's okay. 7-yard pass. 1st down, Niners. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Move the chains. Happy holidays, brother. 10 touchdowns, 6 field goals, no punts in the last 19 drives. The last punt was November 30th at Cleveland. What? That's nuts. The last 19 drives, 10 touchdowns, 6 field goals, no turnovers. That almost seems too good to be true. That's crazy. They haven't had a punt in almost a month? What the fuck? No wonder they're, and again, they're very well coached with Saleh and Shanahan. And again, if I was in the playoffs and I was the Seahawks, Rams, or Eagles, I definitely wouldn't want to be playing the Niners or the Bears because those are the 2 teams that could, get an upset. Home or on the road, facts. And timeout Indianapolis. I mean, even if you're going to use your timeouts here, I mean, what's the best, case scenario? Indy ends up forcing the first punt in a month for the Niners, and they score a touchdown, but then you're still going to be down 41-34. So. Yeah, there's a lot of coaches. And Purdy, short middle. Oh, Kendrick Bourne, intercepted. Cam Bynum. I mean, I wish this interception would have happened in like the third fucking quarter or earlier in the fourth. They finally get the interception that they needed by Cam Bynum. But is it too little too late now when you're down by 14? There you go. Now you need a quick score. Here we go. Nice job by Cam Bynum. Nice job, Cam. And, Cam Bynum is one of those guys. He's known for celebrations, but again, tip drill, right place, right time. And again, Edwards, tipped it right to him. And actually it got tipped by the Niner receiver there and right to him. I thought maybe one of the Colts players got a little bit of a piece of it, but he did not. Just went through the hands of the Niner receiver there and right place at the right time. Nice job. Shotgun set, deep right to Alec Pierce and caught. Woo! 33-yard pass from Rivers to Pierce. First down, Colts. And I love the heart out of Phillip Rivers. He might have 10 kids and be a grandpa, but he is still balling. Nice job by Alec Pierce, who's having himself a day. 41-27. The Colts aren't going to win this game, but it's going to be a fun ending here. All right, happy holidays. Enjoy your wine and your dab session. Look forward to seeing you on Christmas or a little bit after Christmas whenever you have a chance. Polish off that wine and wrap those presents. And I'm going to have fun at the arcade, you best believe. Love from Canada, love from Oregon. Shotgun set, Rivers, short to Tyler Warren. Oh my, intercepted by D. Winters. Oh my God, 74 yards, touchdown, Niners. I don't know if we could have predicted that. Holy hell. After Cam Bynum gets the pick, they finally get Phillip Rivers with the interception, and D. Winters goes all the way. 74 yards, touchdown, bang, bang. Niner gang, wow. This is an insane game. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, that was probably the first bad pass that Rivers had, but it was, a good route that was jumped, and again, if you're cluing and you can read the eyes of the quarterback. I was trying to get a good photo there of D Winters, but I couldn't really find one that was, quality that was good enough. Pinheiro kicked 65 yards, and now it's going to go here with a 6-yard run by Tyler Goodson. 2nd down and 4 at the Indianapolis 41. And, after we didn't really have a whole lot of interceptions, Cam Bynum with one, but then I don't think we anticipated D Winters taking it back for 74 yards. And I don't really think that was a terrible pass by, Phillip Rivers. I mean, all his throws have been kind of shot put throws that have a little oomph on them. That was just a great play by D Winters, reading the route and reading the eyes of Rivers, because normally that would have been a catch. And it's not like Rivers has got 4 or 5 picks today. That was his first, so just unfortunate. Ended up being a pick 6. Goodson on that right end for 3 yards. 3rd down and 1 at the Indianapolis 44. Rivers had 277 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That's not bad. But Purdy had 25 for 34, 5 touchdowns and a pick. So, both quarterbacks were clean until just a few minutes ago. So, 3rd down and 1 at the Indianapolis 44, and one of the more entertaining Monday night games that we've seen in quite some time. No problem. Now that's going to be 4th down and 1 at the Indianapolis 44, and we're at the 2-minute warning. Well, play of the day, D Winters, 74-yard pick for a tutty. No one saw that. Cam Bynum had an amazing interception before that, but sometimes turnovers, go in pairs. And now we're at the 2-minute warning, 48-27, Niners. There you go. And again, obviously you got nice offensive pieces. You just need more defense, and if Daniel Jones ended up, not getting hurt, there would be a good chance that you would make the playoffs. How far you would go, no one really knows. But, the Colts are kind of like the Buccaneers. Like, you got a lot of these amazing pieces on offense. But again, if you can't stop anybody on defense, it hurts. It's like, we got all these amazing players at quarterback and running back and wide receiver and tight end. But the difference is, offensive lines sometimes don't, show up. And then if the offensive line doesn't show up, and the defense doesn't show up and the special teams is shaky, then sometimes you're going to have around a 500 record like both of our teams, have. I've had more injuries than you guys this year, but, it shows you how important O-line, D-line, defense coaching, and play calling, that's more valuable than a good quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. It's sexy. It'll put people in the seats, when you have good quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. But if your O-line isn't good and your defense isn't good, then you're only going to be able to go so far in the NFL. And hopefully we'll be able to improve, those positions for your team and my team moving forward. So, but hopefully you'll be able to go to the Fantasy Championship. 2-minute warning, 48-27, Niners. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. We're at 50 to go, and we're looking for 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. I still think Rivers did a pretty good job overall. Defense is really the thing that let the Colts down today. Just need about 5 or 6 more lot twos. Purdy was on fire. CMC, fantastic. Kittle, amazing. And then again, when you get Demarcus Robinson and, Jawan Jennings and you're going to Kendrick Bourne, that's when things are getting out of hand. a bad line or an injured O-line. We saw what happened when the Buccaneers played the Chiefs when they were in their prime in the Super Bowl. They didn't even throw one touchdown pass. So again, we were the only team to do that against Mahomes in his prime. But again, defense wins games, defense wins championships. So if you got a good defense, you got a really good chance to be able to go all the way. And they got Riley Leonard in the game, who was third string before they got Rivers. Shotgun set, Riley Leonard, and complete. And that was on 4th down and 1. Why not just run the ball there? And then Mac Jones comes in to get the kneel down. And then this one should be over here in just a minute or two. So we'll be off for the next 2 days, but we will be back live on Christmas for the late game between the Chiefs and the Broncos. So if you want to come through and share possibly what you gave for presents or what you got, come through and enjoy a couple hours on Christmas evening. And then we'll continue grinding out college football as well as the NFL for the rest of the year. And another kneel down by Jones. Clock ticks down. Yeah, I mean, there's no point of calling any timeouts at this point when you're down by 21. I mean, especially if the Niners are kneeling down. I mean, it's over. Another kneel down there. You won by 13. Nice. Well, good thing they stopped feeding Kittle. Otherwise, maybe you would have lost. So, congrats. You and Minnie are in the championship. Congrats. Who says the ladies can't play fantasy football? A lot of the ladies on this channel have won titles, playing against a bunch of men. So, if you watch football and you read football and you breathe football and you're really into it, you definitely can beat out some guys that have been playing fantasy football. Part of it is luck, part of it is the draft, but a lot of it is skill as well. And it obviously helps to be a little lucky too. And that is it. Final score, Niners 48, Colts 27. But I do like the heart and the grit by Grandpa Rivers coming in after not playing football for 4 or 5 years. And remember, if they didn't play the Seahawks and the Niners and played the Raiders and the Jets, they would be probably 2-0 instead of dropping these last 2 games. So love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very much. I'm going to go take the pup on a long walk and enjoy the crisp cold air of Oregon, and I look forward to hanging out with you guys Christmas evening for the Broncos and the Chiefs. Too bad Minshew and Mahomes got hurt. We know that Broncos will win, but it'll still give us a chance to hang out. So shout out to Megan for being the MVP to get us to our $50 dono level, and can't wait to be able to talk to you guys in a few days. Love you guys, and I appreciate you guys. And I got one question for you. Who talks sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics. Final score, Niners 48, Colts 27. Happy holidays, and I'll see you guys on Christmas evening, and I'm out. Gang.